Hello, everybody, and welcome into more Sports and Les Levine, the NFL first-round draft night special. With Les Levine, I'm Dave Bacon. As long as the first round goes, we will be with you here on cleveland.com. We will have all of the cleveland.com reporters joining us and talking Browns, and more Browns as they get ready for what is currently the 10th pick in the first round of the NFL draft. Your phone calls, welcome, 216-575-0403. Les Levine, the man the show is named after. You've seen a lot of these drafts. What do you want to see tonight?
Well, I don't want to see anything fancy, special, out of the box. You're given the 10th pick for a reason. Take it, run with it, and have fun and win some football games.
Well, you know, the Browns, it's no big secret. There are a lot of needs on a football team that won just 6 games, went 6-10. A lot of talent, but a lot of holes as well. Let's take a look at the needs of the Browns roster as it is currently constructed. No big secret, biggest need, left tackle. You need a guy to protect the blind side of Baker Mayfield. They also need a guard. Wyatt Teller kind of in that right guard spot. Could be Chris Hubbard. Could be a guy they draft later in the round. Need linebackers. Need safeties. The defense, other than the front four, really needs some filling out. And a wide receiver, other than Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, big question marks at the wide receiver position.
Right. Well, you can go a couple of ways on that. You can try to get what you need in the draft tonight, or take whatever you get and then look at the roster and say, all right, there's probably some free agents out there, still have some trade possibilities and cap space to do something. So I think what's going to happen tonight is there's going to be more coming.
Well, and, you know, whenever we talk about Browns and cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot comes to mind, senior Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com. Let's welcome Mary Kay in. Mary Kay, do you get a sense that they're going to make this 10th pick, or do you think the Browns may move up? Do you think the Browns may move back? What do you expect coming up here in the next few hours?
You know, it's hard to say. I think it will largely depend on how those first 7 or so picks go. I mean, if the offensive tackle or 2 that they really love happens to be gone, you know, then maybe they pick up the phone and talk to the Redskins and see if they can't get Trent Williams. If it looks like the guy they really want is going to be there for number 10, say an Andrew Thomas or someone like that, then they can stay put and basically just try to get their man there. So I think they have all kinds of contingency plans. I think ideally they would like to land their left tackle with the number 10 overall pick in the draft, but they do have plan B, C, and D.
Mary Kay, on the Trent Williams situation, wouldn't you think the leverage that Washington might have is right about as big as it's going to be right now? Once the minutes start spilling over here after 8 o'clock, that maybe the leverage isn't there anymore and they might be in a hurry to do something.
Yeah, you know, it could turn out to be that way. The other thing that we don't know is, are there several teams that are interested in Trent Williams? We've heard different things. I mean, I've heard, you know, maybe the Vikings or other teams could be interested in him. Again, I think the key will be if their left tackle that they really want in this draft is available. And for some reason, I just keep coming back to Andrew Thomas. I honestly don't know for sure if he is the guy that they like the most out of any of these guys. They've played it very close to the vest and done a really nice job. I've heard that that's their guy, but I can't honestly say for sure I know he is.
Mary Kay, does it concern you that there isn't necessarily a consensus guy of these 4 tackles? You know, normally you hear a name that kind of separates from the pack when you have 3 or 4 really talented guys. It seems like the names change with the franchises with this group of 4 tackles.
That is so true. I just heard Joe Thomas in the Browns virtual draft party talking about Mekhi Becton and Jedrick Wills. Those are his 2 favorite guys. I think he's got Becton slightly ahead of Wills. Then, you know, you look at Pro Football Focus, an analytics site that the Browns really embrace, and they have Andrew Thomas number 1. You've got a couple of really respected draft analysts with Jedrick Wills at number 1. It's just, they're all over the board. And then Tristan Wirfs. So you're right, there is not a consensus. You talk to 5 different people, you're going to get 5 different answers, and it's really just a matter of what you like.
Going back to Becton, do you think the recent, not charges, but the recent discoveries about his drug test, do you think that plays into him going up or down or staying the same?
It might a little bit, but I've talked to enough NFL types that tell me they really don't think that it will hurt his draft stock too much. They think that he should be okay. There were some other minor concerns with him, but for the most part, the flagged drug test, people aren't looking at that as a deal breaker for him.
We've talked about a tackle. Is there, say, a guy like Isaiah Simmons is there, and Andrew Thomas, the guy we think might be their guy, is not, but one of the other tackles is there. Is there any way that if Simmons slides to 10, that might be the Browns guy, and then Trent Williams comes back into play?
I think that's a possibility. I did the Browns perfect draft column today, and I had them actually trading for Trent Williams and then trading down a little bit and taking Isaiah Simmons. There are some people that think that Isaiah Simmons could even fall out of the top 10. I just saw Brady Quinn tweeted something like that as well. Some people are starting to think that maybe he doesn't have a home, he doesn't have a position, one set spot, and that's a little bit of a concern. But I think that it would be quite the home run if they ended up with Simmons and Trent Williams out of this draft. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, so what should Browns fans be looking for if they've got a particular person in mind? Let's say it is Simmons. Let's say it's one of the offensive linemen. What key in there? I mean, we assume we know what number 1 and number 2 will be. What needs to change for the Browns' choices to change?
Well, again, I think they probably have 2, maybe 3 of the top 4 offensive tackles ranked highly enough to want to take him there at number 10. We don't know if there's going to be a run on tackles. Maybe all of them will be gone. I mean, you never really exactly know how this is going to go. But I think they hope that one of the guys they really like will be there. And if not, again, I think they will then revisit the Trent Williams trade. I think they have Andrew Thomas ranked very highly, like Pro Football Focus does. But again, we shall see soon.
What do you think it would cost for the Browns to get Trent Williams in terms of what's it going to take? And I would imagine as this draft unfolds a little bit, the asking price likely might go down. That might be what Andrew Berry's waiting for.
Yeah, that could happen. I would probably be willing to give up maybe this year's second-round pick and next year's third-round pick. That was one of the things that I was kind of looking at. But supposedly they would take anything that adds up to a second rounder, and that could be the 2 third-rounders in this draft. Maybe you could make some combination of a pick and a player. So there are all different ways that you can go with it if you want to get that done.
Well, I'm assuming that phones are still ringing at wherever people are hanging out here tonight around the league. If you had to make a choice right now, and let's forget for a moment there might be a trade if it stands the way it is right now, what do you think? What would you do, and what do you think the Browns will do?
My instincts going all the way back to the combine were Andrew Thomas. Just talking to him, studying up on him, talking to people about him. He just seemed like a Browns type of player, just great character. He told me he connected really well with Andrew Berry. I've talked to other people that think the Browns like him. So I would go with Andrew right now.
Mary Kay Cabot, senior Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com. As always, we appreciate the time. Yeah. We will hope to be checking in with Mary Kay later in the evening after the Browns make the pick as well. Mary Kay, appreciate it, and we will check back in with you in a little bit.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Time for us to take a look at a couple of mock drafts, and we're going to start with Mel Kiper from ESPN. Consensus 1 and 2 are Joe Burrow and Chase Young. Kiper has Derek Brown going 3. Tristan Wirfs has moved up and is like the first tackle off the board now. Then the quarterbacks 2 and Justin Herbert. Isaiah Simmons he has going 7 to the Panthers. Jedrick Wills, another one of those offensive linemen. The tackles going 8 to the Cardinals. Okudah slides all the way to 9 in this one for the Jaguars, the OSU cornerback. And Andrew Thomas, who Mary Kay also thinks the Browns like a lot, goes at 10. Let's switch and take a look at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft from NFL.com. He has Okudah going 3rd, Wirfs going 4th. The quarterbacks are flip-flopped with the Dolphins going Herbert. And there you see Simmons 4, Wills going, or Simmons 7, Wills 8. Derek Brown going 9, and again, the Browns taking Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, the first one, the Mel Kiper one, that was the lowest I've seen Okudah, down to number 9. The question is, if he slips one more, would you take him for the Browns? We haven't heard any discussion of that. The Browns looking at Okudah because they didn't think he'd be anywhere near that spot.
No, and it's one of those strange things. The teams that want defensive players were thought to be the Giants and the Lions.
Right.
Giants have now made it murky. They say they want to tackle, and some people think they may end up taking Wills or Wirfs.
Right.
A couple of mock drafts have also said Thomas. So if they go tackle, that's another one of the guys that comes off the board for the Browns.
I think it's interesting. The question you asked Mary Kay was about that there isn't a consensus guy of the top 4, and you throw in another one, maybe 5, maybe even 6. And as far as I'm concerned, they may all be good or they all may have flaws. They're all not the same. Somebody in that group of 4 or 5 is going to be a much better, 3 years from now, is going to be a much better player than the rest of them. The job of these scouts is to figure out which one that is.
And you know what? It could be a function of what system they're put in. What are you going to ask the guy to do? And that's the challenge that the Browns have faced is you keep changing the scheme and you change the coordinators, you change the head coaches, you change the GMs. There's never any one thing that you can develop and build. All of these guys have strengths. All of them have holes. It's how well you play to their strengths, how well you hide their holes that determines how good they're going to be.
Right. Well, you also have the factor the coaching. And Ferentz at Iowa, he gets extra points. So he was, of course, coached with the Browns back in the 90s. Everybody has a coaching style. Everybody. Becton, you say, well, is he too big? I haven't heard that before with a guy with that kind of speed.
The concern with a guy that big is you're going to ask him to get out and run, and that takes a toll on a big guy more so than anybody. His joints, you're asking a guy that's 360-some pounds to run basically from the hash to the sideline and block somebody.
Yeah, we used to think old school is the guy gets in there and just moves the defense to the side one way or the other. You're talking about a totally different animal here.
Well, and there are some football people that think Becton doesn't necessarily fit what the Browns want to do for that very reason, that he may have a tough time, even if he keeps his weight down. The weight's a big concern with him. If he keeps his weight down, staying healthy for a full 16 games with a guy that's 360 pounds and you're asking him to run and move people, that's asking a lot.
And it's a lot of snaps against top-quality opposition each and every play. At his level in college, it wasn't that way for every game, wasn't that way for every snap.
And you know what? Television doesn't do the NFL justice on the line. If you've been down on the field, it is brutal on the offensive line. It is much, much, much more physical than college. I've been on the field for ACC, SEC games. I covered Florida State. It's completely different. It is completely different. And, when you do that the first couple times, I remember thinking, these linemen are crazy. They don't get paid nearly enough money to do what they do on that field. Yeah, it's physical.
It's like batting practice in baseball. The major leaguers, when they hit, it's a totally different sound. Same thing with the sounds you hear on the line. Totally different.
Yeah, it's like a 50, 60 mile an hour car crash every play that they're going at it. It's a physical game. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we will take a little bit deeper look at those 4 tackles and also where they might fit in with some guys in recent history and what their scouting reports look like as well. For Sports Les Levine, our NFL Draft Special. We'll be right back here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit Naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week, and it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art BetAmerica kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Levine Special Edition, the 2020 draft, and we passed the baton over to Doug Maurice of cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Doug, how are you tonight? There you are. How you doing, Doug?
We're working to get Doug so we can hear. There we go.
There you go. Hello. Whatever you said before, repeat it again.
Oh, good. I ripped less, so if you didn't hear it, that's great.
What are you thinking tonight?
I'm intrigued. I'm super intrigued about who's going to be there for the Browns at 10. They're going to end up with the tackle out of this. They filled every other need in the offseason, and they have, legitimately 4 different ways they can go to end up with the tackle. They can trade up for their guy. They can pick their guy at 10 if he's there. They can trade back and pick a guy lower on their board at tackle, or they can not take a tackle and trade for Trent Williams. So they're going to find their left tackle in the next day or two. I'm just fascinated to see how many options are going to be there for them, or do they sort of end up saying, well, this is what we have to do because the board went a certain way.
Doug, what about, let's shift gears just a little bit. Ohio State potentially will have the top 3 picks in this draft from 1.5 recruiting classes. That's pretty impressive. That's never been done before.
Yeah, Chase Young is going to go 2 to Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody trades up to that 3 spot where Detroit is to take the quarterback, but Jeff Okudah is going to go high. And Chase Young and Jeff Okudah were 5-star recruits, were the best players in Ohio State's 2017 recruiting class that was ranked number 2 in the country. I'm still enamored with the fact that Jalen Holmes, who's in the NFL right now with the Minnesota Vikings, after Chase Young played 1 game in 2017, he had played 13 snaps of college football because he was a backup then. Jalen Holmes told me this guy's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft someday. So he was wrong. Chase Young's not going to be 1. He's going to be number 2. But that's how impressive Chase Young was physically, mentally, across the board the second he got to Ohio State. And the list of talented, sure things that I've covered at Ohio State in 15 years, Chase Young is at the top of the list, and Jeff Okudah is not far behind. Okudah is the Michael Thomas of cornerbacks. Not blazing speed, incredibly professional, incredibly tough and physical, and exactly the guy you want on his team. And if for any reason he falls tonight, that would be a mistake because he's going to be an all-pro.
All right, take us down the road here as you have whoever you think is going to be your pick for the Browns at number 10 as it stands right now. What has to happen for that person to be taken? Does somebody have to be surprisingly taken off the board? Does it have to be an extra quarterback taken? You tell me.
My dream is for Andrew Thomas to be the Browns pick at 10. It just has to be that there's not a tackle run. Maybe there's a receiver run instead, right? I think 3 quarterbacks are going to go in the first 9 picks. But there's just a very good possibility, I think, of 3 or 4 offensive tackles going as well. So my guess, I just put out a poll on Twitter. Andrew Thomas and Isaiah Simmons, I think, are the 2 most interesting guys for the Browns. I said, who will be there? And more than half the people voted neither will be there. And that's what I also think. And if that's the case, then the Browns have to adjust.
Are you okay if neither are there? You okay with the Browns trading back? Maybe acquiring some more assets, because it sure seems like Andrew Thomas is the guy that they want as a tackle. If your guy's not there, I can understand them trading back, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I take advantage of I think teams might want to jump up for the receiver they like. There might be some other defender that's falling. Who knows if people fall in love with Jordan Love at quarterback or something. I do think I think the worst thing you can do is have your guys when you're a spot like 10. If your guys, oh man, these are our 2 or 3 guys we really want at this spot. If they're gone, and then you say, well, I guess we'll take this guy. That's much worse than trading down, because trading down, you don't get your guy, but you get other stuff. So I would be very surprised. We all think they want Andrew Thomas. I wrote it. A million other people have written it and said it. We don't know that. Who knows? Maybe their guy is Jedrick Wills, and he's there. I just want them to take their guy, but I would be shocked if they wind up, with their 3rd favorite tackle at 10. I think if their 2 favorite tackles are gone, they trade down.
Yeah, by not naming a guy, you're either giving off the effect that you don't want him, or it's all part of the con of who you're going to take without giving it away. Tell me, on Saturday night, is Trent Williams a member of at least on the roster of the Cleveland Browns?
I think if I had to guess yes or no now, I'll say yes, because I think the tackle they want in the draft won't be here. But I think it's all connected. Mary Kay Cabot's been on this for months. But I think the reason nothing's happened with Trent Williams is because they want to see what happens. They are going to get their left tackle. If their first choice is Andrew Thomas, well, let's not trade for Trent Williams until we see if we can get Andrew Thomas. But maybe once your first choice isn't there, rather than saying, oh, we're going to trade down and take Josh Jones or Ezra Cleveland or a guy like that, maybe you say, we'll trade down, take another position, the best player there, and then we'll trade a third-round pick for Trent Williams. And I think in the end, that would be one of the ways the Browns could win here. There's multiple ways they can win. That's one of them.
You know what? That's the way you just described that. If it unfolds that way, that's a good sign for the Browns as far as general manager Andrew Berry goes. You have to be a little bit impressed with the way he's run free agency, and I want to see this draft. I want to see how it unfolds. He's young. You can't put the things that happened under Sashi Brown on Andrew Berry. I mean, he was part of that front office without question, but he wasn't the guy making the decisions.
Right, and when Sashi Brown traded down twice in his first draft, if they had drafted Michael Thomas instead of Corey Coleman, he'd be a genius, right? Because you wind up with the extra picks, but you blow your first round. So people don't hate trading down. They hate trading down and then drafting a terrible guy when you do trade down. So, I mean, that's not, I think people in Cleveland are like, oh, trading down. Trading down is not a sign of weakness. Trading down is taking advantage of some other desperate team. But no matter where you pick, in the end, you've got to pick the right guy. But I do think Andrew Berry has 4 different ways to go. And I think he's ready to go up, down, sideways, draft, trade, because they filled every other need in free agency this offseason. It's all about left tackle, and they're going to get one. They are not going to line up in the first game and be like, oh, crap, we forgot to get a left tackle. Everyone's like, well, in this draft, they need to get a left tackle. It's like, you think? They filled every other need.
I don't see any.
I'm left tackle right now.
I don't see any popcorn, pizza boxes. What are you having at the Le Maurice household tonight?
I drank 9 Diet Coke. Is that a thing?
That's a thing.
Well, you know what? One of the worst kept secrets in the NFL is now reality, as the Cincinnati Bengals have selected former Mr. Football Joe Burrow, number 1. You see 2014. The thing people love about Joe Burrow, off the charts football IQ and intangibles. Scouting report that we have here says he plays with brazen field presence and poise, rapid ascension to chess master who can beat up coverages thrown at him. When he was in high school, his high school coach told me he was one of the most competitive guys he had coached in 20-some years. He said he would never bet against Joe Burrow in anything, be it chess, checkers, basketball, football, and those are usually the guys. When you look at quarterbacks that succeed in the NFL, it's usually because the guy has skill, but he's competitive as all get out, and that's what people really fell in love with Joe Burrow.
Doesn't like losing.
Does not like losing, hates losing more than anything else, and that was the MO of Joe Burrow going back to 2014 at Athens High School down in southern Ohio. He is now a Bengal.
Hey, Doug, speaking of the Bengals and Burrow, there's a report that there's so much pressure on this kid that maybe the future of the franchise depends on it, that if he doesn't do well, it may bode not so well for Cincinnati fans who want the team staying in Cincinnati. You put any credence to that?
No, I don't know anything about that. I know a boatload about Joe Burrow. I mean, I will tell you, I talked to Joe Burrow when he was a backup quarterback. I talked to Joe Burrow at a football camp in the shadow of Ohio Stadium when he was in high school, and I was like, scrappy little guy. And he loved Matthew Dellavedova. When he played at Ohio State, he wore a Deli shirt all the time. And I thought he was Matthew Dellavedova. Because, Dave, you're right. He's competitive. So is Matthew Dellavedova. Matthew Dellavedova. He's just not talented enough to be anything more than a backup point guard. I thought Joe Burrow was a scrappy, hard-nosed competitor, backup quarterback. And then he went to LSU and turned into Joe Montana. So I thought he was a version of JT Barrett. He can run it. He can throw it. He's tough. He's physical. I never saw this, never expected this at Ohio State. Ohio State didn't expect it. He was a 3-star recruit originally. Then they moved him up to 4-star. He was good, but he was never really intended to be the guy at Ohio State. Ohio State didn't miss on this kid. He transformed himself at LSU. But I talked to him at the Combine. I got to talk to him for a minute. I talked to him about two people. I talked to him about Delhi, because that's what we always talk about. And I talked to him about Tom Brady, because when they were having the quarterback competition at Ohio State with Joe Burrow and Dwayne Haskins, one day we were watching practice, and I said, this sounds crazy. I'm not saying Joe Burrow reminds me of Tom Brady, but he stands like Tom Brady. And he stands like a guy who's going to scream at you and kick your butt. And that's what he is. His teammates love him. His Ohio State former teammates love this guy. His LSU teammates love this guy. He's going to be awesome in the locker room. He's got a brain like a computer. He's really athletic and can move around. I think he's going to be a huge hit in Cincinnati. I never saw it coming, but what he is now, I think he's got it.
Does he have to be a starter day one or not?
Oh, why mess around? He's ready. He can handle it. He's old. He's old too. He played 5 years in college. I mean, it's one. I think he's like the same age as Josh Rosen. You know, I mean, it's like he's old. He's been around the block. His dad is a lifelong football coach. This guy's been watching film in his living room since he was a baby. Like, he's ready. So he doesn't need to be, put on the bench to learn. He's the best quarterback in Cincinnati, and he should take the first snap.
Doug Maurice, as always, we appreciate the insight. We'll be checking in with Doug a little bit later in the night as the draft goes along. Right now, we're going to take a quick time out. More sports, Les Levine. The NFL draft special for the first round will continue. Washington Redskins are on the clock. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Maurice, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
More sports and Les Levine. The NFL Draft Special continues along with Les Levine. I'm Dave Bacon. Redskins pick is in, number 2 overall. Chase Young, another Buckeye, is headed to the Redskins. A rare physical specimen, long, chiseled, pliable frame, loose, fluid, agile, aggressive, and explosive. Quick twitch eruption out of his first step stance, and he blows up offenses. He is the highest-rated prospect in this draft. The knock against him, and it's not a great one, field awareness and anticipation is below average. You don't need a whole lot of field awareness or anticipation. He knows what he's doing. He's getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, see that guy, go get him.
And he's getting there. Yeah. Let's welcome in Stephen Means, a Buckeyes beat reporter. And Stephen, you're familiar with Chase Young. Tell me a little bit what this guy can do to opposing offenses.
Yeah, he's a game record by every sense of the word. If you watch that first Wisconsin game, 38-7, it seemed like all 4 of those sacks were game-changing plays. They weren't just losses for 7 yards. They were strip sacks. They were coming at moments where Wisconsin seemed to be making a drive down the field and making their way back into the game. And, well, here comes Chase Young having to say about things, and he did the same thing in the Penn State game when he came back from a suspension, where all 16 and a half sacks were game-changing plays and not just necessarily 3 or 4 yard losses for an offense.
Are you surprised that there was no trade involving the second pick in the draft? Or are you surprised that Washington just went ahead and took Young?
Yeah, no surprise there. Dwayne Haskins is only in year 2 of his NFL career. In that situation, you take the guy that everybody is calling a future Hall of Famer. It's that simple.
When you saw, him hit the field pretty early, was it pretty evident early on that this guy has a chance to be one of the Bosas or potentially even better? There are a lot of people that follow Buckeyes who think he's better than both of the Bosa brothers. Are you in that crowd? I mean, that's pretty elite as far as defensive linemen go.
Yeah, I am. The Bosa brothers were technicians because, they came from football families. Chase Young is a physical specimen who just got a chance to learn from Larry Johnson for the last 3 years. From the moment he arrived at Ohio State, Jalen Holmes was saying he's going to be better than Myles Garrett. He's going to be the future number 1 pick in the draft. Now, obviously, that didn't happen because Joe Burrow exists. But people were already saying these things after 13 snaps as a college football player in his true freshman year. And then last year with Nick Bosa getting hurt, he stepped into a role that he wasn't expecting to, and that's being the main guy on the defensive line. And so he was getting doubled and tripled the way that he didn't think he would be, and he got 10 sacks. And then this year, you saw that at his extreme. This isn't a surprise. He's always looked like a grown man the way he does right now at 21 years old. He's looked that exact same way since he's gotten on campus. So, no, the whole future Hall of Famer, he's going to be an All-American, top pick in the NFL draft, has been the expectation for him since he came out of high school as a 5-star prospect.
Stephen, I've always subscribed to take the best Buckeye available, and if you count Burrow as a Buckeye and now Young, a couple of Buckeyes, what do you see for Okudah and anybody else up high in the draft from Ohio State?
Just with Jeffrey Okudah, it might depend on what the Lions do. Obviously, they need a cornerback, and Jeffrey Okudah is the best quarterback in the draft. He's clearly going to be the next Buckeye selected, and Damon Arnett's a guy who came back for his 5th year after some great advice from Chris Carter and some of the coaching staff, and he might sneak into the 1st round there. But then after that, it gets a little interesting. You got guys like Jonah Jackson, who's a graduate transfer from Rutgers, who might sneak up into the 2nd or 3rd round as a left guard. Devon Hamilton, he had a great 5th-year senior year. You got J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, it depends on when a running back comes off the board. Will he be the 1st or 2nd running back taken off the board between him and Jonathan Taylor and even DeAndre Swift down in Georgia? But it starts with Jeffrey Okudah, depending on what the Lions do. How far does he fall? But then after that, it's a toss-up between guys like Damon Arnett and J.K. Dobbins of who's the next Buckeye taken. And is that going to be late in the 1st round or sometime in the 3rd round?
Well, while we were talking, Jeffrey Okudah is, in fact, the 3rd pick. So former Buckeyes from that class go 1, 2, and 3. And you take a look at his measurables. Patrick Pearson is the comparable, and that's a pretty good person to be compared to. Self-motivated, driven to succeed, to honor his late mother. Height, weight, length, speed, all top shelf. Size to guard bigs, speed to check deep threats, patient for impress, rarely tilted by a shifty release, Pretty much anything you want in a cornerback, this guy has it. Willing to unload on running backs who test him. The one thing they say as a weakness, the scouts needs to play with consistent, disciplined eyes. Again, you're nitpicking at that point. You see the height, the weight, the 4.48. He's got all the measurables. Tell me a little bit about Jeffrey Okudah, Stephen, and some of the things that you have seen from this young man in a long line of really good defensive backs from the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, I don't want to call him the peak of that position in the way Chase Young might be the peak at the defensive line position, but I will say this. That length, that size that he has that allows him to play physical, he took away whole sides of the field for Ohio State's defense at times this year. And so those stats are actually pretty impressive for a guy who wasn't tested a lot during the season. And I think the best games you can look at for him it's probably the Clemson game, because that's the best group of wide receivers they played against. And T. Higgins didn't really do much when Jeff Okudah was on him, and neither did Justin Ross. He's technical. He's physical. He's everything you would want in a first-round cornerback who's going to be taken this high. There's a reason he's the top cornerback in the country. Nobody wanted to test him. And when he did get tested, well, he had 2 picks against Nebraska, and he had another one early in the season. But he didn't get a lot of chances at interceptions because nobody wanted to try him. And that's saying a lot for a league who already doesn't have a lot of elite quarterbacks in it. You're taking an entire side of the field away, especially for a team who spent a lot of the season in cover 3.
The other thing is the Lions are getting a heck of a person. You know, the story with, you know, his mom passing away and how he was motivated. That's impressive for a young guy to be like that. And you won't have to worry about this guy coming and doing the things he's supposed to do off the field as well.
Yeah, definitely. You early enroll, and within a day that you get there, you lose your mother at 18 years old. That's a hard thing to overcome, and he's clearly done that, and has been playing in honor of his mother. And so far, I mean, number 3 pick in the draft, he continues that long line of defensive backs to come out of Ohio State to be first-round picks.
Okay, the 4th pick will not be an Ohio State Buckeye. However, next year after, it looks like an incredible recruiting class once again for this year. Hopefully there is a this year, but what's your overall thought on what they've done and what if they still have room to do anything else?
Yeah, they do 17 guys in the class, and I've been talking to some of those guys, including Jack Sawyer, the top player in that class, who's going to be the next guy on the defensive line that Larry Johnson's going to turn into a first-round draft pick. They all believe that this could be the highest-rated recruiting class of all time, and so far it's turning out to be that way. They're competing with the likes of Urban Meyer's Florida 2010 recruiting class, Nick Saban's 2017 recruiting class at Alabama, and Kirby Smart's 2018 recruiting class at Georgia. And they're already rated higher than those classes when you're talking about average star rating. Now, obviously, those classes had 25-plus guys in it, and the Big Ten doesn't necessarily allow you to go higher than that. But it's got 3 5-star kids in it who are going to be able to be impact guys the moment they arrive on campus. And then outside of that, Kerry Combs has been back for 4 months, and he's already putting his staple in Ohio State recruiting the way he was the first time he was here. So that's the thing to look out for. They think this is going to be the highest-rated recruiting class of all time, and that this is going to be the decade of Ohio State football as far as winning national championships.
Steve, let me ask you this. Of the guys that go later in the draft for Ohio State, who do you kind of see as, you know, that guy could really be a good pro, maybe even a better pro than he was a college guy? Is that J.K. Dobbins? Who do you think has the ability to kind of whose game matches the NFL game maybe a little bit better?
I think it's Jonah Jackson. Obviously, he came from Rutgers, where he played in a program that we all know is not good. And so nobody got to see him. He didn't really get to put things on film that would impress an NFL scout or NFL coach. But he comes to Ohio State as a plug-and-play guy for his 5th-year senior year, and he's automatically probably the best offensive lineman of those 5 starters. Wyatt Davis, the right guard, returning right guard for Ohio State, is probably going to be a first-round pick next year and an All-American next season. He talked about all the times that he made him up his level of play, because every single game it seemed like Jonah Jackson was leading the team in knockdowns, pancakes, whatever you want to call it. And Chase Young even tweeted out at some account when they said, who's the most underrated Buckeye in this NFL draft? Without hesitation goes Jonah Jackson. Having a guy like that as a plug-and-play guy for Ohio State really solidified that guard spot, that center spot, and another right guard spot. And it's part of the reason why J.K. Dobbins was able to run for 2,000 yards this season. So that's the one guy who, of all these guys are probably going to go later in the draft, he's probably the most NFL ready.
Stephen Means, we appreciate the time as always. I'm sure we will be checking back in with Steven throughout tonight, first round of the NFL draft. Time for us to step aside and take a quick timeout. The New York Giants are on the clock. Good news for Brown fans that want to tackle at 10. None of them off the board. First one could be going here at 4. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. More sports and Les Levine. The NFL Draft Special. We'll be right back here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
I was trying to say push the phone up.
Get Nature Stone for up to half off and never replace your garage flooring again. Cracked, uneven garage floors are dangerous. Thin paints and poly coatings you can do yourself are slippery, peel, and don't correct problems. Why pay for a floor that won't last? Only a professionally installed Nature Stone garage floor is safe and corrects problems that paints can't. And Nature Stone comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty. So there are no hidden maintenance costs. Schedule online today at naturestone.com to qualify for up to half off. Hurry, offer ends April 30th. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Time for some more NFL Draft Preview Bacon Bits. Player evaluation for the NFL Draft is more of an art form than a science. Andrew Berry is the Browns' Da Vinci this year. Let's take a look at the NFL scouting reports for the top offensive tackles in this year's class. Pay special attention to the numerical grade. 8.0 is a perfect prospect. 7.5 to 7.3 is a perennial All-Pro. 7.0 to 7.1, a Pro Bowl talent. 6.7 to 6.8 equals a first-year starter. And 6.5, a boom or bust prospect. Let's start with Jedrick Wills of Alabama. He graded out the best in this year's class at 6.85, meaning he is a year-one starter. Strengths, big, wide, extremely athletic. Quick out of the gate. Good flexibility and leverage at the point of attack. Bulldozes down blocks. Weaknesses. Plays too far forward at times as a run blocker. Will one pop a block over sustaining at times? Average instincts and recognition against the blitz. Mekhi Becton, the huge tackle from Louisville, graded out as the second highest ranked tackle with a 6.7 grade, the lower end for a year one starter. Strengths. Absolute giant with dense proportional frame. Boomer upper body power. Blasts kick out targets off their feet. Weaknesses. Weight could be a major issue without discipline. Opens outside too early in pass sets. Unable to respond timely to cross-face stunts. Andrew Thomas from Georgia is the next prospect. His grade is 6.49, putting him right in that boomer bust range. Strengths. Plays with a fierce competitive mentality. Has powerful meat hooks for hands. Weaknesses. Tight hips limit lateral movements and pad level battles for leverage. More of a mauler than a mover. The fourth highest ranked of the tackles in this class, Iowa's Tristan Wirfs, with a 6.48 grade. Also right in that boomer bust range. Strengths, weight room monster. This guy can squat a bus. He's quick out of his stance and into his work. Lateral quickness for move blocking. Weaknesses, has dominant traits but doesn't consistently dominate with them. Average explosiveness into initial contact, inconsistent change of direction to second level movement, and issues with his sets in both the pass and run games. To give a better perspective of how these guys might develop, let's look at two prospects who graded out higher than all four of them. Back in 2016, this tackle had a grade of 7.5, meaning he grades out as a perennial All-Pro. Strengths, has the elite foot quickness of a high-end NFL tackle. Very good body control and balance. Excellent bend and overall flexibility throughout all pass sets. Weaknesses, frame could use more mass. After initial punch in pass protection, he'll lose his patience and reach. That was the scouting report on Laramie Tunsil, who made his first Pro Bowl this year after being traded to the Houston Texans. Here's a prospect from the 2014 draft. He was graded with a 7.0 grade, meaning a Pro Bowl talent. Strengths, long arms, excellent body mass overall, outstanding run blocker with the strength and power to wash down half of the line. Weaknesses, could refine his technique and do a better job of finishing blocks. At times, quits after contact, lets defenders come underneath or get over the top. That was the scouting report for Greg Robinson. Was selected high in the 2014 draft, played the last 2 years for the Browns, but failed to live up to that high grade coming out of college. So the question Andrew Berry must answer coming up, between Jedrick Wills, Mekhi Becton, Andrew Thomas, and Tristan Wirfs, is there a Laramie Tunsil type player or even better out there? Or are they more like Greg Robinson or worse? Again, NFL player scouting is an art, not a science. Let's hope Andrew Berry finds a masterpiece for the Browns' offensive line this season. And one guy that Andrew Berry will not be selecting would be the aforementioned Andrew Thomas. He went number 4 to the Giants. A little bit of a surprise. Most people had Wirfs in the mock draft. They obviously like Andrew Thomas better. He has the ability to play either tackle spot, fiercely competitive, really strong and powerful hands, played both tackle spots, above average recovery to redirect with power, obviously a big thing. He lacks the prototypical build is the knock against him, but obviously the Giants had him ranked as their highest tackle on the board. So the Giants take Andrew Thomas with 4th pick overall.
And as you say, that's the first one off the board of the linemen. Now you could have a run of quarterbacks the next 2 spots with Miami and the LA Chargers. And that gives Andrew Berry more time to work on a potential trade here. Yep. He's got a little bit of a break in the action here.
Yep. And the other one is, again, he might have liked Tristan Wirfs or Jedrick Wills.
So
again,
that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of like throw him in a hat. It truly depended on team to team which of those 4 you like, which more than anything scares me. Let's welcome in Scott Pasco, beat reporter for the Browns here on cleveland.com. Scott, appreciate the time. What about you? I know kind of thought Andrew Thomas might be the guy. Do you have a sense that the Browns may like one of these other 3 tackles?
First, let me say Doug Lesmerises is probably in the corner of his basement crying right now. He's probably very upset that Andrew Thomas is off the board. I think we kind of thought Andrew Thomas. I think most people pick Andrew Thomas, at least on our staff, to be the Browns' pick. But also, he just seemed to be rising in recent weeks. So when you look at the other 3 guys left, throughout this whole draft process, there hasn't really been anybody who's separated from the pack. And I think a lot of people think that the Browns didn't make that trade with Trent Williams yet because they want to see what happens. Maybe Andrew Thomas is the thing that gets that moving. But at this point, I think they're so close that there's still going to be some waiting here. I talked to Joe Thomas for a story recently. Actually, when it became clear that these 4 guys were in the running to be the 10th pick, I talked to him about what he thought about the left tackles, and he thought they're all fantastic. I'm going to take Joe Thomas's word for it. He seemed to have some experience playing left tackle in the NFL, but he thought they're all fantastic. He didn't really say one was above the other. Yes, they all have different things that they might do better, but at this point, I think if you get the 8th pick to the 8th pick with Arizona, and there's still 3 on the board, you're guaranteed of getting 1. And if the Browns come away with one of the top 4, there are a lot of people I think they're going to be happy about that.
Let me ask you this. What if you get to that 10th pick and Isaiah Simmons is on the board? And now you've got, by some people's estimation, 2nd best defender and one of the better prospects in this class. Do you then move towards maybe it's time to go trade for Trent Williams?
Yeah, that's a hypothetical we've been talking about a lot in recent weeks. If none of the top 4 are still there, then yeah, you have a serious decision to make. And it doesn't really always have to be about Trent Williams either. You could take Isaiah Simmons there, and then work to get back in later in the first round and get someone like a Josh Jones out of Houston or Ezra Cleveland. There are other tackles. Austin Jackson could be a late first round, early second round guy. Now they're not guys who we've been talking about among the elite in this class who people think have a good opportunity to step in and be the starter from day one. But you're still getting a left tackle. You're still getting a heck of a player in Isaiah Simmons. And maybe you hope for the best. That's probably not what Browns fans want to hear after the last 2.5 years of watching left tackles struggle. But maybe that's the plan if all 4 of the top guys are off the board.
Yeah, well, so far nothing that has happened should have surprised Andrew Berry and his crew. Maybe some surprise coming up. I do know you alluded to it a second ago, Scott, and that is that fans don't like trading down. I think that's something that goes year to year to year. Even if you follow what happens after you come out good with it, I still think that the thought of trading down doesn't thrill any football fan.
Yeah, I think Browns fans are a bit against that, having watched that happen in 2016 and 2017 and no quarterbacks. The quarterbacks played into that. But the idea of getting more draft picks and getting more swings at it, that's ultimately what a lot of teams want to do. So if you're doing it this year, you're really looking at getting more swings at depth, because the odds of you getting somebody, even in the first round, no matter what position you're picking, getting somebody who can come in and be a starter from day one and play at a quality level is really slim. Like Pro Football Focus data, and I know that we know the Browns value that, point out how if you want to get somebody who plays at least 500 snaps and one of their grades of 70 or better, which is half a season worth of snaps for an offensive tackle, and then a starting level grade. It's like the cutoff to be a starter, a grade of 70 for a game or a season. If you want to get that, you're going to get it less than 50% of the time, 46% for tackles. And that's at the top of the list. If you go to the second or third round, it pretty much falls off the table into the teens. So your odds of getting somebody who can come in and be an impact player aren't as great as a lot of people might think. And that's why we've heard Andrew Berry say repeatedly that he knows that they're not going to go out and draft an all-pro who can come in and hit the ground running, because it very rarely happens.
Yeah,
so
but
that's not probably what Browns fans want to hear, but that's the reality of the situation.
No, but when you make a trade, not even if it's a Trent Williams level, if it's something else, you at least know almost exactly what you're going to get. Oh
yeah, and that's what's attractive about that. You're getting a guy who's been in a Pro Bowler, 7 out of the 9 years he's been in the league. A guy who you don't have to worry about him coming in and adjusting to the NFL. You don't have to worry about him not having an offseason program to get acclimated to the NFL. That's another thing they have to think about with these picks is if you draft an offensive lineman in the first round, you take someone at 10, you're not going to have the traditional offseason. You don't have rookie camp. You don't have OTAs in May. That person isn't going to be sitting next to Joel Petonio in meetings every day. So someone like Trent Williams obviously doesn't need that as much as a rookie left tackle would.
Well, one of the guys the Browns were looking at that left tackle spot potentially is Jedrick Wills. He was a right tackle in college because he was protecting the blind side of the guy that went number 5 to the Dolphins. The Dolphins picked Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, and the guy that was hurt, had the hip injury. Otherwise, he would have been up there with Joe Burrow at number 1. Medicals came back completely healthy, fits the mold of the new dual-threat quarterbacks. Career touchdown to interception ratio is 8-1. That's outstanding. Active, agile feet, offer quick steps and resets, has unbelievable accuracy, a really good throwing arm. This guy has everything you want in an NFL quarterback. The question is, can he stay healthy? And it's just the big question because he's been banged up, had the hip injury, has had ankle injuries, has always been beat up. When he's been on the field, he's been outstanding and is a winner without question. This guy's a quarterback.
You wonder if he'd even be number 1 if he didn't get hurt. If he'd be one against Burrow.
It would have been close. People are speculating it still would be Burrow just because it was a historical season for Burrow, and Burrow is more of that NFL prototype. Guy's left-handed. This guy's a winner. If he's healthy, the Dolphins have their quarterback. But that's a big if.
It is a big if.
So the first of what people expect to be 2 quarterbacks going, in fact, goes with Tua going to the Dolphins. The next one that everybody expects the Chargers to go quarterback with Justin Herbert. We'll see if that's the case or not. We mentioned Jedrick Wills, one of the guys that the Browns are looking at, played right tackle for Alabama, but that is the blind side of Tua because he's a left-handed quarterback.
Yeah, I heard some comparisons on these guys, and where by playing top quality opponents week in and week out, you have something more measurable as opposed to somebody going up against Mid-American Conference players or teams, and you can judge them a little bit better. You've got all these tackles that come from great programs or great coaching.
Yeah, and the pick is in for the LA Chargers, and it is in fact the other quarterback coming off the board, Justin Herbert. Kind of flew up the draft boards.
Last couple of weeks.
Great size and filled out, pro frame ready is what they say. Full field leader and reader with experience in the pro passing game. Operates pre-snap plan, recognizes matchup advantages. Those are some of the things that the NFL likes about Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon. You see the number if you want to call and talk about it. So, again, we're at pick 7, and only one of the tackles has come off the board. Isaiah Simmons still on the board.
Does that
all
surprise
good things. It surprises me a little bit that Simmons is still there. I thought he might go to the Giants.
Okay.
But, later in the process, they started to talk tackle. But Herbert is a guy that NFL guys think is going to have a really good career. The one thing they say about him is he's kind of mechanical, plays a little stiff. His accuracy is there. The mechanical thing, you can get a better feel for it. If you have accuracy, you have the ability to succeed in the NFL. This guy was pretty accurate.
Yeah, the Chargers, of course, had Rivers. Now they'll have a decision. Do they want to go with Herbert from day one or not, as we talked earlier about other quarterbacks.
So, Scott, the 2 quarterbacks, let's welcome Scott Pasco back in, cleveland.com beat reporter for the Browns. Not a surprise, the Chargers and the Dolphins both go quarterback. Do you sense the Browns are pretty happy? There's still 3 of those 4 tackles there.
Yeah, I think having the 2 quarterbacks go there works in their favor. What they didn't want is somebody trading up and trying to take a tackle. Carolina's kind of a wild card. A lot of people have them taking Derek Brown there. Some people have them taking a tackle. That could go either way. I think a lot of people expect Arizona and Jacksonville to take tackles, but Carolina, that pick, they're watching that closely because that could kind of blow up the whole let's wait and see what we get plan. Carolina, though, they also need someone to play middle linebacker. Luke Kuechly retired. Isaiah Simmons obviously would fit that need. So that Isaiah Simmons falling to 7 could also help the Browns.
Scott, are you surprised that it's gotten to this point and no trade has been made?
Yeah, I wondered about that. I wonder how much the technology that people are dealing with in this draft is playing into that. I don't know. Do you want to have a bunch of people on different phones? And I don't know. I would be surprised if there are as many trades as we've seen in the past. I was surprised there weren't trades beforehand. That seemed like something that maybe would have happened before this draft got going. Watching some of the GMs and the coaches in their basements and in their homemade war rooms, I just think everybody just wants this to go as smoothly as possible, take their picks and move on.
What do you think would be a tell if the Browns make a pick other than a tackle at 10? If Simmons is there and they take Isaiah Simmons, think that's a sign that Trent Williams is coming? That trade for Trent Williams is going to be consummated?
I think that would be your first instinct. Andrew Berry's been very aggressive this offseason. He went out and he got he needed a right tackle. He got arguably the best one. He needed a tight end. Probably got the best one. He traded for one of the top fullbacks in the league. And there aren't a lot, but still, you're going to need one. Might as well go out and get one of the best. So if he takes Simmons, I got to think that he's going to be aggressive in getting a tackle. That might be Trent Williams. And like I said before, that might be trading back into the first round and trying to get one of the, I guess, the second tier guys that might still be there. But if they do take Isaiah Simmons and that's it, that would be shocking. I don't think they can come out of tonight without a left tackle, whether it's by trade or by draft. You're again watching two and a half seasons of trying to get it right and hoping that somebody grew into that position or hoping somebody turned their career around. Hasn't worked out, and they can't go into a third season with that plan.
Have you been impressed with Andrew Berry? I mean, the contracts that he's given have not been ridiculous. A lot of them have been front-loaded where the Browns still have the most salary cap room in the entire NFL at this point. I know he's a first-year GM. So far, there's been a plan. You can see the logic and the thought that he's put into building this roster, which you can't always say in years past.
Oh, yeah. The thing that's most impressive about him is he doesn't tell you anything. We've talked to him multiple times leading up to the draft. And he's like a nice version of Bill Belichick. He talks more, but he's still telling you nothing. And he even apologizes for that sometimes. He's like, I know I've said this before, but here comes something that isn't going to answer your question. So he knows what he's doing now, and he's obviously prepared well for the job. And the offseason so far, like I said, has been aggressive, and he's gone out and done the things that most people, I think, thought the Browns needed to do. The last huge thing on his checklist is left tackle. And, I think that ultimately is going to be how we end up grading, his offseason is did he get that left tackle? In years past, the GMs were graded by did they get that quarterback? Now it's do you have that left tackle to protect that franchise quarterback?
I'll tell you what, it is tough to say a lot of things and say nothing, and Andrew Berry is doing that. All right, so you're at the number 7, which is Carolina, then followed by Arizona and Jacksonville. I haven't heard that much trade talk involving those 3 squads, although maybe behind the scenes they're doing a good job of keeping that quiet also. So if it goes the way you think it's going to go, what the chalk tells you here, what's left at number 10?
My first instinct would be that Simmons goes next, and then you're going to see 2 tackles come off the board. So you're left with Wills or Becton or Wirfs. I'm surprised Wirfs. I would be surprised if Wirfs gets there. I think what ultimately is going to come down to is Becton or Wills. So you got a guy who had the potentially the diluted sample at the combine, or you have a guy who's going to be switching to the other side. A lot of people don't have a problem with what happened at the combine. I think that we don't know exactly what the story is. If it's just a diluted sample, if it's a case of a guy drinking too much water, then fine. As far as Jedrick Wills goes, you have a guy who's moving to the other side, which in normal circumstances wouldn't be a big deal if you had rookie camp and OTAs, but they don't. So now you have somebody who's going to have to kind of do that on their own a little bit until the NFL gets back up and running. So that could set them behind. I know that Joe Thomas didn't have a big problem when we talked about Jedrick Wills, about moving from one side of the line to the next. As long as you're not doing it in the middle of the season, you should be able to make that transition. But again, the uncertainty of where we are with sports in general, who knows when he gets the chance to really work on something like that.
Scott Pasco, as always, we appreciate the time. Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, and we will check back in with Scott and a number of the cleveland.com reporters throughout the night as we continue first-round coverage. Carolina Panthers on the clock, and the Carolina Panthers, in fact, have made their selection, and it is not Isaiah Simmons.
No.
It is not a tackle. So
Intrigue coming in here.
It's really good. It's good for the Browns. The way this is laying out is they take the defensive tackle from Auburn, Derek Brown.
I think it's the first big surprise of the night.
There were some people that had him going. It's all based on defense. He's a defensive guy. And again, elite combination, size, strength, big man athleticism. Some people actually had him rated right there as 1B to Chase Young's 1A. Able to play up and down the line, odd or even fronts, competes with urgency, determination, quickness, and power to ruin a reach block. Great upper body strength and hands. A linebacker's best friend because he gobbles up blockers and widens up gaps. Panthers are getting a really good defensive tackle. They talk about inconsistent pad level. He doesn't necessarily play down and win leverage. Right. That becomes more important as you go up against good or better competition in the NFL. But Derek Brown, he's another one like Chase Young. He can wreck an offensive line's game plan in a hurry.
All right, so that's pick number 7. You got 8 and 9 before the Browns' next pick. In talking to the fans, as I do every night, the popular choice is Isaiah Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
And he's there right now. One would assume. Well, I don't know if we're going to assume he will be.
A lot of people have the Cardinals taking him, so it'll be interesting to see. But
if that happens, then you have a pretty good offensive tackle.
Right, and those are Simmons or one of those tackles is Brown going there helps the Browns and Andrew
one
Berry.
Way or the other.
Right. Bottom line is it takes a guy that wasn't really what they were thinking out of the mix. A really good player, but not what the Browns were thinking.
Yeah, but right now you got Wirfs, you got Beckton. You also have to
Wills,
get used to that.
And you have Simmons. So in theory, Wills or Wirfs or Simmons should be there for the Browns.
Correct. Correct.
I think if you told Andrew Berry at the beginning of the night you're going to get either Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs, or Isaiah Simmons at number 10, okay, let's hold pat and we'll wait for that.
I think if they don't hang on and hold in there for Simmons, I think Wirfs might be your guy.
Yeah, if he is still there, athleticism is off the charts. He gets out and allows them to do the outside zone run that they want to do. So that's the kind of guy that you want. And offensive linemen from Iowa, Kirk Ferentz, usually do pretty well in the NFL.
Exactly.
We're going to step aside and take a quick time out here. We will return more sports and Les Levine NFL Draft Night Special with the first round. Getting closer and closer to the Browns picking at number 10 here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
I think it's going to be Simmons.
Get Nature Stone for up to half off and never replace your garage flooring again. Cracked, uneven garage floors are dangerous. Thin paints and poly coatings you can do yourself are slippery, peel, and don't correct problems. Why pay for a floor that won't last? Only a professionally installed Nature Stone garage floor is safe and corrects problems that paints can't. And Nature Stone comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty. So there are no hidden maintenance costs. Schedule online today at naturestone.com to qualify for up to half off. Hurry, offer ends April 30th. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine. The NFL Draft Special, round one of the draft, and the Cardinals pick is in, and it is Isaiah Simmons. So Isaiah Simmons goes number 8 to the Cardinals. Rare versatility and matchup potential all around the field allows coordinators the freedom of in-game planning. Explosive run and jump athlete, second year makes sideline to sideline range elite. Had one of the best lines I've heard. He said, teams get to have 53 players. With me, it's like getting to have 56 because I play 4 positions.
Sounds like a contract talk.
Well, the challenge with that is, does he really have a position? And that's the concern that you would have. I mean, he's got some athleticism.
Yeah, I think what we've heard in the build-up to the draft is how versatile he is and how great that'll be. Then you say, well, wait a minute, why doesn't he excel at one position?
Right.
And we'll find out.
Yeah.
I would have liked him in a Browns uniform.
I wouldn't have complained about that. He would help on a couple of levels of the defense that they need help on. Let's welcome in Ellis Williams, Browns beat reporter from cleveland.com. Ellis, you got Tristan Wirfs, you got Jedrick Wills still on the board. Do you take one of those two for the Browns, or are you trading back and picking up some picks?
Yeah, the Browns, this is breaking well for them. When Andrew Thomas was off the board at number 4, you start to worry. Now this is going to be the run of tackles that people have talked about, but now it's breaking pretty well. I see the Jags pick is coming in soon. So for me, I think either Wills or Becton. Jedrick Wills is considered the top tackle by many. Of course, he's on right tackle, but as Mary Kay Kavitz reported, there's no worry about him switching to the left side. And then Mekhi Becton is the home run hit. He probably has a little more of a lower floor. With how raw he is, but you can't teach his size, 6'7", 365. So they can't go wrong with either. I have to pick. Originally, my pick was Thomas. He's gone, so I'm keeping it safer, and I'll go Wills. But I don't think the Browns can go wrong here, assuming they make the pick. And with that being said, I'm suggesting they don't trade down. Stay at 10.
So you would not go with Wirfs then, the Tristan Wirfs from Iowa. What's your thought process? I know you've watched a lot and done some of the things with the schemes. What's your thought on Tristan Wirfs as far as the Browns go?
Yeah, look, I want to be clear. They can't go wrong with one of these picks when it comes down to these 3 tackles. But if I have to put someone at number 3, it's going to be Worth, even though he could make for a great guard. But at pick number 10, you're not looking for a great guard because that's not the Browns' top need right now. It's that left tackle spot. And for me, Wills and Becton are just a little safer. There's some stuff I've seen on tape with Worth, with Worth that just you worry about him getting beat inside. You worry about him being on an island. And quite frankly, he doesn't finish guys the way Becton does with his power, and then Wills with his quick feet. Worth wins, and then he tends to take he holds back a little bit towards the end there, and that's fine. But you just want to see a little more fight there. We're nitpicking here. The Browns are in a really good spot right now.
Ellis, it's about time somebody came out and said this guy can do this and this guy can't do that. We've had them. Everybody says, oh, they're all 4, they're interchangeable. Well, that's not possible, and you just spelled out why.
Yeah, look, that's what I enjoy doing. We got to get to the bottom of this and actually put these guys in some order. So I know I keep repeating myself with saying the Browns are in a good spot, but there are some spots on tape where you worry about Worth being on an island right there. And with Wills and Becton, you don't see that as much. Even when Becton fails at times at left tackle, he's still 6'7", 365, and just getting through a man of that size is as impossible as it gets. So I think those 2 are the top 2 guys right now, but with how the night's been going, that Isaiah Simmons pick was a surprise. I wouldn't be shocked if it's worse at 10.
You know, if Andrew Berry wants to be the smartest guy in the room, he better do something about right now. Otherwise, he's got to take a conventional pick here.
And you know what? He's probably looking at it going, I'm okay here.
I'm okay here.
I'm okay
You
here.
don't have to do
There's
anything
no need
fancy
do
to get to this point.
I think Ellis hit on it. I think Andrew Berry is looking going, all right, let's see. You know, a lot of people have the Jaguars potentially taking a wide receiver because, you know, there's going to be some of the elite wide receivers there. So it'll be interesting to see. Are you concerned at all about Becton when you're asking a guy that big to run like that sideline to sideline? Are you concerned about the wear and tear on the big man's body? That would be a concern I would have in a wide zone running scheme.
Yeah, naturally you got to have some concern there. But from what I've checked in on, Cameron Teague Robinson, who I know you guys have talked to with the Carrier Journal covering Louisville football, he's not worried about it. If anything, he says Becton keeps getting in better and better shape. This guy is focused, determined to be the best. And then talking with Vach Lombardi, former offensive lineman himself, he breaks down film. He's not worried about the big man either. He says there's a difference between being that size and not knowing how to use it, which he needs to figure out, and then just being sloppy and out of control. He's not that. And longevity, I think, is going to be on Becton's side, even though the size might not recommend that.
All right, the Browns coming up shortly after Jacksonville. And they'll make a pick probably among what we had just talked about. You see them getting back involved in the rest of the night after this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. So there's 2 things racing through my mind right now. The Browns could trade down right now that I got the list of picks in front of me. Number 14, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team looking for offensive line help. Maybe they sit at 14 and are confident that a lineman will follow them and they don't need to move. But obviously they just got Tom Brady. You need to keep the GOAT upright, and they could move up right now. But other than that, the Jets are another team, but they're a little too close to the Browns. I don't see them moving up just one pick to pick a guy when 2 tackles are there, and the Browns are now on the clock, I'm seeing. And then, the Raiders and the 49ers need receivers, and so does Denver. So if there's going to be a trade, it's only Tampa. As for coming back into the first round, that would be for a linebacker or something like that, I would anticipate. It's possible, but I don't know if the urgency will necessarily be there.
Well, you mentioned the Jaguars' pick is in, and they did not go tackle. They did not go wide receiver. They went defensive back. C.J. Henderson becomes the second cornerback off the board from Florida, and ranked really close to Okudah as well. So really athletic. You see 4.39 speed. He's got the size like Okudah, 6'1", 204, to be an effective cover guy. Has the speed to cover the elite guys that run, has the size to cover inside. Obviously, taking a top 10 pick, this is a guy that deserves to be taken. He goes number 9. So the Browns are on the clock, and they have 3 of those tackles available, Becton, Wills, and Worth.
I'm not sure they would have figured they'd have 3 left at this point.
I don't think so either, without question. It broke the way Andrew Berry has to be pretty happy. Although the guy that everybody thought the Browns would like is the one that went number 4 to the Giants.
Right.
But still, 3 of those 4 at 10, you have to be pretty happy.
Yeah, the thing about it is, down the road, you'll be able to check out, well, did they get it right because the other guy did this, or a lot of comparisons. So now it's whittled down to the 3, assuming they're going to the offensive lineman, and they're going to have to find which of the 3 is going to be the best 5 years from now.
Well, I think Ellis brought up a really good point. Do you trade back with the Buccaneers, pick up additional pick, and trade back to 14, and you still are likely going to get one of those 3 tackles.
Yeah, or throw Cleveland on top of that, Ezra Cleveland on top. You can still get an offensive lineman.
Yeah, you would probably have still one of Wirfs, Wills, or Becton at 14.
Exactly.
So it'll be really interesting to see exactly what Andrew Berry does with this pick.
And if that's the case, you would assume Jerry Jeudy's going to be taken by somebody in there too, which would take one of them off the list.
Yeah, that's why I would
one
say
on the list.
Yeah, Jeudy or Ruggs, one of those wide receivers, one of the elite wide receivers. As you get into the teens,
I can hear you.
They expect to go. So kind of interesting. Browns again on the clock, getting ready to make the pick at number 10. With 3 of the offensive linemen still on the way. And Ellis is waiting with us as the Browns pick will be announced. And we will have that coming up. So, again, the Browns have the pick of Tristan Wirfs along with Jedrick Wills and Mekhi Becton. And they do, in fact, go tackle, do the Cleveland Browns. And they end up getting what many consider to be the best tackle in this group. Played a lot of right tackle. Did the guy that the Browns take at number 10. It is Jedrick Wills from Alabama. Aforementioned, played right tackle, protected the blind side of Tua, who went number 5. So what do you think of Jedrick Wills, Ellis?
In love with this young man real fast. At the combine, watching his individual drills, his footwork, this kid was shuffling like a basketball player, like a guard on the perimeter trying to stay in front of the Kyrie Irvings of the world. His feet move at a rate, like pistons, that you don't see with someone of his size, 6'4", 312. I bet he plays a little higher than that, and he's going to come in and get even more weight on him in Cleveland. Other than Andrew Thomas, this was probably the guy who was most NFL ready. Really the only reason he wasn't tied to the Browns, or at least people that are watching the film would say he was played on the right side. But clearly Kevin Stefanski, and he's talked about it to the press at times, he's not worried about which tackle's playing which side. He mentioned Jack Conklin played left tackle in college and then played right in the pros. And now we're going to see a similar switch, I'm assuming, with Jedrick Wills moving to the left side. This is about as good as it gets. Jedrick Wills, Andrew Thomas, you weren't going to go wrong with either of them. It'll be interesting to see where Tristan Wirfs and Mekhi Becton end up and how their careers unfold. But for now, it's Jedrick Wills, and he's going to be ready to play day 1.
Can we close the book on Trent Williams? Or because that's still a trade-off?
Yeah, great question. I guess you can say you never can close the door. You just never know in this league. But for the most part, it seems like Jedrick Wills is a tackle, the future for Cleveland, unless a surprise trade happens and somewhere Washington wanted him, some sort of swap. I'm really just spitballing here because it really feels like we can move on from Trent Williams now, like you suggested, and they can plug in Jedrick Wills at left tackle. And one thing I want to say quickly, the difference between Wills and Trent Williams that not many people were talking about was what you're going to have to pay. The Browns have already tied up a lot of money. Conklin, of course, getting that big money, and then both J.C. Tretter and Joel Bitonio making 10, 11, 12 million a year. To give Williams that type of money he's looking for, that would have been a huge investment in the offensive line. Probably would have been the highest paid offensive line in football. I don't have those numbers in front of me. But this way you lock in a rookie on a rookie deal, 5 years, that gives the cap situation a lot of flexibility, as the Browns already have.
Yeah, and the scouting report on him that I have, bulldozes down blocks, plays with unusual poise against counters, big, wide, extremely athletic, quick out of the gate to cross-face defenders on the backside. moves like a tight end in space to adjust to moving targets. Those are all really good things if you're Baker Mayfield and this guy's protecting your blind side.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you told Browns fans an hour ago that you'd walk out with Wills and didn't have to trade and didn't have to change positions, although you may do that now, but I think most Browns fans would be happy with this.
I would think so. This is the guy that, by some things, was the highest rated of those four linemen, and to have him available at 10 is absolutely a win. So, again, Browns go Jedrick Wills from Alabama. Again, second year in a row that a Alabama offensive lineman has gone in the first round. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. The Browns take Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle from Alabama, at 10. More Sports and Les Levine. The NFL Draft Special will be right back here on cleveland.com after this timeout.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit Naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at SmileyOne.com.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Well, he started off as a road grader. He was a guy who was a really good run blocker, and he's obviously kept that over the course of his career. But as a starting tackle at Alabama, you're going to be charged with some of the best pass rushers, not only in the SEC but in the nation, because the SEC tends to be pretty good at collecting those guys on a pretty consistent basis. And Jedrick Wills was able to handle those guys pretty consistently. I think I saw something from Pro Football Focus earlier. He only allowed 1 sack or 1 quarterback pressure, something to that effect. So he's clearly a very good pass blocker too. And you obviously got to have excellence in both disciplines, run blocking and pass blocking, to be projected to be a first-round pick as an offensive tackle. And Jedrick definitely carries those skill sets, but that wasn't a surprise for him. Jedrick was a guy who was very highly rated, highly recruited out of Kentucky. And when he picked Alabama, there was a chance that someone as talented as him would earn a starting spot at Alabama to start, and he more or less did that. So he got 3 solid years of playing time at Alabama, and that's all he needed to be considered one of, if not the best offensive lineman in this draft. He's handled a lot of scheme in his time at Alabama. I mean, naturally, Alabama changes coordinators every 45 seconds, so he's getting a new scheme pretty regularly. He's learning a bunch of things, but his most recent offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, very obviously has some professional experience in his background coming to Alabama from the Atlanta Falcons. And they were very diverse in their running scheme because they had such a good offensive line across the board. They were allowed to be very multiple and versatile, to use a couple of coaching buzzwords, in how they orchestrated their run game. They also had an awesome running back in Najee Harris that could handle all of those things. So zone blocking, basic gap schemes, power, all of that. Jedrick Wills saw all of that in his college system. So not only does he have the physical tools to be rated this highly in the 2020 draft, but he's also seen enough in the college football ranks that he should transition to the next level pretty well, I think. I think the best compliment I can give Jedrick is that he appears in front of the media a lot at Alabama, which sounds kind of benign, but you got to remember, this is Alabama. This is one of the more notoriously anti-media, or at least not very media-friendly programs that there are in college football. So they keep it kind of close to the vest. So when someone appears in front of the media almost on a weekly basis, like Jedrick did, it tells you one of two things. It either tells you that they're really boring, and Alabama would appreciate that, right? They don't want any bulletin board material, anything like that coming out, or it tells you that they've got a good head on their shoulders, that they know how to conduct themselves in public. And Jedrick Wills is definitely the latter. I don't see him as a boring interview or a boring person. He knows how to conduct himself in front of microphones and media, and that obviously behooves someone who's trying to be a first-round draft pick in the NFL. So I think when you're looking to who Jedrick is as a person, I really think that's the best compliment I can give him, that Alabama, of all places, was willing to put him in front of the media on an almost weekly basis, because, again, he was someone that could handle that responsibility. He's mature and intelligent enough to handle a relatively out of control media session and do so the way Alabama would prefer that their players do it.
Yeah, that was Brett Hudson from the Tuscaloosa News beat reporter for Alabama, giving us some insight about Jedrick Wills. We talked to him a couple weeks ago, and if Nick Saban is willing to let you talk to the media, pretty safe to say the young man is articulate and has good head on his shoulders.
Not going to say anything stupid.
Let's welcome in another young man with a good head on his shoulders, articulate. Of course, I'm speaking of Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com. Doug, I was being suck-uppish and nice to you. What do you think of the Jedrick Wills pick?
Oh, you can suck up to me anytime you want, Dave. I appreciate it. So I always think at a time like this, I don't know, right? I mean, the Browns are studying these guys for months. Here's the thing. It's a premium position, tackle, and whatever. The thing we know is that Jedrick Wills was one of the top 2 tackles on the Browns board because he was the second tackle drafted. Maybe the Browns liked Andrew Thomas better, who went 4th. Very possible, right? But the thing that would have worried me, why I thought trade down was a possibility for them, is when you're picking 10th, I'm not super interested in you taking the 4th guy out of position. Like, hey, there's 4 good tackles in this draft. Oh, the first 3 were taken. I guess we'll take the one that's left. There wasn't a tackle run. It was only Andrew Thomas. I liked Andrew Thomas and Isaiah Simmons. I didn't think either of them would be there for the Browns, and neither of them was. But in the end, at a position that is a big-time position in the NFL that's worth taking this high because position value matters, at a position of great need for the Browns, they got the guy they liked the second most. I'll take it.
Yeah, or they might have liked him the best. There were plenty of ratings that had him as the top-rated tackle. Obviously, the Giants rated Andrew Thomas at him, but...
Hey, Doug, obviously...
No, go ahead.
Obviously, Freddie Kitchens won too many games.
Isn't that? Oh, Les. See, that's you always put a different spin on it, Les. Freddie Kitchens, who's successful.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Now, does Andrew Berry get judged over the next however length of time as to how those 4 offensive linemen do? Is that what his legacy is from at least this draft?
So I think a couple things. One is, I mean, Becton went right after him to the Jets. So, yeah, you can judge off that. You can't judge off Andrew Thomas. If Andrew Thomas goes to the Hall of Fame, the Browns had no chance to get him. He went 4th. But, yes, you can judge. He'll be judged against Wirfs and Becton. And the other thing here is this, and this is like a counterintuitive thing. Everybody in Cleveland has talked about left tackle so much, right, because it was such a gaping hole and because they had a Hall of Famer there for 10 years. And they hadn't replaced him. They hadn't replaced him since Joe Thomas left. The thing we have to remember is the Browns didn't win anything with Joe Thomas. So it's not, and that's not a shot at Joe Thomas. It's the point that, okay, maybe Jedrick Wills is going to the Hall of Fame. The game is not draft the Hall of Famer. The game is make the playoff. So they got to get everything working together. All of us got so left tackle focused. Great. Congratulations if your left tackle's good. That's not the deal, though. You got to do all the other stuff around it, too, obviously.
Let's do some quick housekeeping. The Jets, as Doug mentioned, selected a tackle that the Browns passed on, Mekhi Becton. Big guy, 6'7", 364. Really powerful kick-out blocks, knock targets off their feet, athletic enough to make outside zone blocks. Long arms allow for emergency recoverment. Big question with him is, can he keep the weight off? That was a major concern that a number of people had mentioned. And he's unable to respond calmly to cross-face stunts, high hands, diminished leverage at the point of attack, which is not good when you got the leverage this guy has. But Becton, obviously one of those top line prospects, goes to the Jets at number 11. Then the first wide receiver comes off the board at 12 for the Las Vegas Raiders. Henry Ruggs III. Game-breaking speed requires safety help over the top at all times. That's what happens when you run a 4.27. Also a freakishly good athletic. The vertical jump is good. It torments coverages with changeup to fastball, route running, jetpack to make quick slants to go to the house from anywhere on the field, smooth transitions for more complex route. Now, the one thing is he has a little bit of tough time and polish with press coverage, and he needs to get free up the field without excess stutter step. But obviously, this guy's a really big-time game breaker, and you've now had 3 of the Alabama Crimson Tide go in the first 12 picks.
And they put a comparison to an NFL player. The comparison they put was Ted Ginn Jr.
Yeah.
If he has that kind of a career, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Ted Ginn Jr. Will be going into his 12th season in the NFL this year. So, Doug, when you look, do you believe the Browns would try to find a way to get in the back half of this draft to try to address the defense now, or you think it's kind of wait till rounds 2 and 3?
Yeah, I mean, they have a little flexibility, right? They have an extra 3rd-round pick. They still need some guys at certain spots. If they like a guy, they did go up, and get David Njoku in the back of the 1st round a couple of years ago. If you think a guy is a rare guy at his position, Njoku was really young. He was really athletic. There weren't other tight ends like him. We want that guy. So if there's someone like that, I can understand it. There's a lot of receivers in this draft. And I think the thing to watch here, and we'll have to see how it plays out for the Browns on Saturday, is lots of receivers in this draft, and the first one didn't go until 12. Now, I think maybe there's a receiver run coming here, but if the receivers get pushed down a bit, I think it's very possible in the 2nd round there could be 1st-round talent at receiver there for the Browns to take in the 2nd round. I'm very interested in the Browns taking a receiver in round 2, not because they need one right now, but because Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry are pretty expensive. And as you start to plan for the future, your 2nd-round pick doesn't have to be a starter as a rookie, but he might be a guy who can replace someone in a year or 2 when they price themselves off your roster. I think this is a great receiver draft, and I would be interested in the Browns taking advantage of that.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is the difference between a 1st round and a 2nd round. You get that 5th-year option, especially if you get an elite talent. You can lock them up on a rookie type deal a year longer. So that would be another reason to give up a little capital to get back in the back half of that 1st round.
Which is, again, what they did with Njoku. You especially with a younger guy, right? You try to get him for a little longer. Maybe it takes longer to develop. Again, this is one of those things, right? People love to talk about trading up. You got to have stuff to trade up. And you know how you get stuff to trade up? Sometimes you trade down. So I know everybody's trading down, but if you only trade up, you run out of assets. So there was a time when the Browns had a lot of assets. They just have basically a normal amount of assets at the moment. They have a little bit extra, right, including the extra 3rd rounder from the Duke Johnson trade. But you can't go nuts trying to move up because they still need to get, I think, 2 or 3 really good players out of this draft.
Doug, obviously with what's going on throughout the world, and football is in reality is pushed to the side, but I think we need this for morale purposes to have this kind of night that we have. And my guess is if we ask Browns fans at this point, as we're almost midway through the first half of the 1st draft, my guess is the Browns fans, whatever they were looking for, they're probably pretty happy with it now. It may not be in a year or 2, but I think right now, if we took a poll, I think we'd find that this so far is going well for the Browns.
I think most fans would grade this like a solid B, a B. I don't know that Browns fans, like, we can't have draft parties, right? Would Browns fans be jumping up and down like maniacs for Jedrick
there's no quarterback
Wills?
involved.
No, I don't think they would. But I think what most Browns fans, they love the draft, but they also fear it. They fear a bust. So I think a lot of people fear to trade down because there's a knee-jerk reaction to trade down. And so they didn't do that. They got, again, as we said, either their 1st or 2nd best tackle. They might have been more excited by Isaiah Simmons or Jeff Okudah if they would have fallen. But this felt very solid. And for Browns fans, solid can be great.
Yeah, solid usually gets you into the playoffs at some point in time, which we haven't felt in a little bit here. So,
well, they're bringing the playoffs down to us now by adding teams.
I think Doug was part of that discussion. Add a couple more teams so everybody gets in.
Yeah. I mean, why not, right? Just start the season with the playoffs. Your week 1 game is a playoff game. If you lose, you're done. expand to 120.
Like NASCAR.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, here's the thing, guys. Right? Whether we've gone through regimes, Sashi Brown to John Dorsey to Andrew Barry. They've all done things their own way, but you see pieces, right? I mean, we didn't have to talk about a quarterback in this draft. They didn't have to be desperate for a receiver. They didn't have to talk about edge rusher, right? We all saw a very specific need. They have pieces. It hasn't come together yet, but they have more pieces right now than they've had in a long time, and there's still certainly a way that can work.
Doug, what area do you think needs addressed significantly during the draft? Is it, you mentioned wide receiver, obviously, running back, or wide receiver, linebacker, safety. Is there any other that you wouldn't be surprised if the Browns address reasonably early in this draft?
Yeah, that's the thing, and I'm writing about this right now for cleveland.com. Like, I don't want to think about need, because the thing that you think you're set at now, next year is a need. Take the best guy, which is why I know a lot of people are projecting safety for them in round 2. Just in terms of positional value, I don't know that safeties win you Super Bowls. I mean, if they're Ed Reed, they do, but I don't think Ed Reed's going to be sitting there in the second round. So I would probably rather go greater positional value. I'd rather go receiver, maybe pass rusher. They signed 2 veteran safeties in free agency. Maybe there's a safety later in the draft. I think we have to get away from need because, again, wide receiver is not a need. If they don't have Jarvis and Odell on the team in 2021, all of a sudden receiver's a huge need. So maybe get a really good guy at an important position now ahead of time. So I really think from now on, I would not focus on need. I would focus on the opportunity to pluck talented dudes, maybe who already should be off the board. So yeah, I mean, we get it. They need some linebackers, I guess. They could use a little safety help. But that's not how I would go about the draft because there's still enough.
You did something very interesting there. Most people say they're in one corner or the other. They're either in the corner of take the best guy available or take the need available. And what you did is you combine the two, and you don't hear that very often, but I think it's a great way to look at it.
I think you take the best player available at the position that has the most value. So, like best player available, if the best player is a guard, an offensive guard, I'm a little less interested in that. I'm interested in the best player available at offensive tackle, at pass rusher, at receiver, at cornerback, at the positions that win games in the modern NFL. And you often can fill in the rest. And it's not, in the end, best player available is a misnomer because the goal is not to accumulate the best player. The goal is to accumulate the best team. And that isn't always the same thing as the best players. So you've got to get the best guys at the right spots. So that's what I'm interested in.
Right now, a spot that's of need, though, is linebacker. And I'm not sure what's available as you get into where the Browns are right now. So they're going to have to address it some way or another. Could be a trade coming up. Could be a free agent as we get through this draft this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, here's the thing, right? I liked the idea. It felt like John Dorsey in the middle rounds last year was drafting guys for the future hold. I think we all could see that Christian Kirksey and Joe Schobert at linebacker a year ago might be near the end of their Cleveland careers, and Demarius Randall at safety might be near the end of his career. So what do? They go linebacker, safety, linebacker, Sione Takitaki, Sheldrick Redwine, Mack Wilson in rounds 3 through 5. We should be sitting here saying, okay, they lost those guys. They have some young guys ready to step in. Nobody's saying that. So that's part of the problem. Dorsey had the right idea last year, drafting guys a year ahead. They didn't need Sione Takitaki to play last year. The fact that we're sitting here acting like the Browns have huge holes at linebacker, and I've seen smart film people say the Browns might have the worst linebackers in the NFL. You know, you took 2 in the first 5 rounds last year. So I don't want to sit here and chase linebacker and bypass better talent at more important positions. If they thought linebacker was a premium position, they would have paid Joe Schobert. So you can find a linebacker. You don't have to take him in the second round.
Well, time for a little bit of housekeeping so the Buccaneers traded up 1 spot with the 49ers, and they took Tristan Wirfs. So the fourth of those offensive tackles comes off the boards, and Wirfs is a guy that is just a crazy weight room guy, weight room monster, quick out of his stance, moves into his work very well, lateral quickness for moving blocks, runs zone blocks up the field to elongate rush lanes. Now, the knock on him is he has dominant traits but doesn't consistently dominate with them. That's not good. Needs to be a little bit better of a level pass drive blocker and has average explosiveness into initial contact. But this was a guy that was very well thought of without question. And strangely enough, the Buccaneers traded up one spot.
One spot to make sure. And, of course, he's got the coach, Kirk Ferentz.
Kirk Ferentz, we talked about him. So, yeah. So all four of those tackles are gone by 13. How do you like that? You trade up one spot with San Francisco to make sure you get your guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, right, you just said it. That was the last of the four tackles. A lot of mock drafts had the Bucs taking Andrew Thomas at 14 because people for a while thought Andrew Thomas was going to be the fourth of the four tackles, and by the end, a lot of people came around to the idea he'd be the first of the four tackles, and he was. I would like to say dominant traits but doesn't consistently dominate with them is my new personal motto.
That's kind of frightening if you're Tom Brady, who's he's going to be blocking for Tom Brady. Tom's going to say, you need to start dominating with those dominant traits, Tristan.
Yeah, it was your number one mantra, but you traded it up one spot.
Yeah. I have a feeling, though, if you have dominant traits, Tom Brady might be the guy to pull him out of it, right?
I think he might have some ways to do that. I think he's trained with Bill Belichick for 20 or so years. So,
how about that, Tristan? Welcome to the NFL. You're the guy you're protecting most is Tom Brady.
Are you surprised at all with anything that has happened thus far, midway through this first round, Doug? I mean, I think the biggest surprise is that's the first trade. I thought there'd probably be a little bit more than that.
Yeah, it feels like everybody's sitting in their house. It's just like having stuff fall in their lap, what they want. You know, it's not all the frenetic of like, hey, it's the waterfall in Las Vegas. Let's make 10 trades. I thought there might be a receiver run earlier than this, and I think now's a time for teams who want a receiver. A lot of people think Philadelphia at 21 might want to come up and get a receiver. Jerry Jeudy, I think, still there. CeeDee Lamb, still there. Again, that's a premium position. You thought people might come for that. But it was kind of unsurprising. I mean, I did think in the end, I thought it would have been really interesting. And Dave, I told you I'd write $100 check to your favorite charity a month ago if Isaiah Simmons was there at 10 for the Browns. I just thought there was no way a versatile defender like that would fall that far. It feels like Arizona is a good fit for him, but I feel like the most surprising thing so far is that there are so few surprises. I thought really, and the reporting, you know, I don't have any reporting. I don't know anybody. No one talks to me. But what you read felt like Detroit at 3 maybe wanted to try to trade down. I thought they would have been able to mortgage the chance to get your quarterback with the Dolphins and the Chargers and get one of them to jump up. Didn't happen. I think Jeff Okudah is a good pick for them. I think Jeff Okudah is going to be like a really good NFL player. But everything just slotted in so normally. I thought Dave Gettleman in New York might jump for Isaiah Simmons. I know they want an offensive lineman to block for Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. I thought maybe Isaiah Simmons is like the Saquon Barkley of a defense. And I thought he might jump for that and throw off this draft. But instead, it's been chalk.
How about Ian Rappaport reporting yesterday, the day before, that the Browns might be involved in 4 trades in the first round? He might be off by about 4.
Yeah, I mean, again, you've got to be the one thing I don't question about Andrew Berry is being prepared, right? So I think there are probably some GMs who in a draft say, I'm not trading, or they say, I'm getting rid of this pick. And I don't think Andrew Berry would ever operate like that. I think he thinks I might do this, I might do this, I might do this. If I can't do this, I might do this. So that's why I think it made sense to trade up or down, but neither of those scenarios revealed themselves. If say they did like Andrew Thomas the best, they couldn't get up. What do you trade up to 3 to get Andrew Thomas? They had no shot at Thomas. So now you're not trading up. And then you know, again, we're talking all 3 of the 4 tackles are there. So you aren't in a spot where you feel sort of forced to trade down. So I bet, I'm sure the Browns were prepared to do that. But everything, and now Trent Williams is off the board, right? And I bet you they had a trade ready for the Redskins if they felt like there was a tackle at 10 that they liked. But in the end, it fit, and so he didn't have to get fancy.
Were you surprised at all that the Browns got that pick in pretty quickly? I mean, it didn't seem like they were trying to milk the clock or anything. It was Jedrick Wills, hey, let's get the card in.
Well, I think that might go to the idea of, and that's part of what makes it a good pick. He's our guy. That if they said in all their pre-draft stuff, well, what are you doing at 10? Well, we think the board is going to fall like this. If Wills is there, he's our guy. So we don't even need to take who's going to offer us. We're not taking a phone call. We're getting our guy. We're not searching around for a trade for trade's sake, right? We're getting our guy. Now, the thing, I had said, well, what if Tua falls? And all of a sudden, people are going nuts trying to come up and get Tua. There wasn't a guy falling to make people go crazy. So I think that certainty, maybe it's a misread, but I like it. All right. They knew what they wanted to do. The way that board fell, get your pick in, must mean you're sure in your choice.
I don't know if it's the technology involved with what's going on behind the scenes, but it seems to me that every team almost can make that statement that they're happy with what they have and they didn't entertain that trade.
I think it's possible that it has less to do with what's happening tonight and the technology and the distance tonight and the reduced draft process. There weren't in-person interviews. There weren't pro days. I think perhaps teams had less opportunity to triple and quadruple think themselves into oblivion. And so I think we may have ended up in a world where people crunched game tape. They had their combine interviews. They saw the guys at the combine. They had their interviews over Zoom and Skype. But sometimes there's such a thing as too much information. And I think there can be a world where, you talk to all these guys, you go to all the pro days, you're like 70 different guys. So then you're open to trading here, trading there. You streamline the process. I think you might streamline the thinking on draft night. And even if we were in Vegas, I think that the process for months was streamlined is maybe what leads to this.
Well, the other thing is it certainly seems like Andrew Berry was pretty well prepared, like you mentioned, for different contingencies that, okay, this is what happened, this is what we're doing. At 14, the 49ers, in fact, made their pick after they traded back. So they trade back a spot, and they get a defensive tackle, Javon Kinlaw from South Carolina, built to intimidate with exceptional physical traits, thickly muscled, long arms, good lean mass, menacing bull rusher. Forceful charge requires 2 blockers to stall pocket collapse. Heavy, violent hands. Weaknesses, a little slow off the ball. Playing style lacks control and efficiency at times. But again, this is a guy that, remember, they traded DeForest Buckner, a high pick of a couple of years ago. So they just replace him with another high pick, mid-first round. They get Javon Kinlaw, highly ranked defensive tackle.
Interesting note about him. First couple of years of his life, he lived homeless in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. That's
good for him.
Absolutely. So, Doug,
to your point,
go ahead.
To your point on that, Dave, I think that's something for Browns fans to keep in mind, and it was the one thing that was holding me back a little bit on the Trent Williams trade. The Browns traded their first-round pick a year ago to get Odell Beckham. If they had traded, it wasn't going to cost a first-rounder for Trent Williams, but if they had traded for Trent Williams, traded a pick, and gotten another good older player who's expensive, at some point you need to draft guys to balance out your salary cap. And so you just talked about the 49ers. They trade DeForest Buckner, who was a defensive lineman, a high pick for them. They get a pick, and they pick a defensive lineman. It's like, what are they doing? They're managing their salary cap. And so this is, again, the kind of thing that I think some people, if you had a criticism of John Dorsey, it was that maybe he didn't do that as well in Kansas City. He sure spent money on some guys here. I think Odell Beckham's worth it. But you have to pick guys. And by not trading for Trent Williams and by drafting a left tackle and by holding on to some of your picks, when you have money coming up that you're going to pay to Baker Mayfield and Myles Garrett and guys like that, if Jedrick Wills is really good, it's going to help that your left tackle is on a rookie contract. When you get good, right, first the Browns have to get good. But you also have to operate with the assumption that we are going to get. So I think you can try to get good and also start planning for what you're going to do when you are good at the same time. And that includes drafting young guys at premium positions who are going to lock down a spot for cheap money for a few years so you can pay Baker and Miles and Denzel Ward and everybody else who's going to come up on big deals.
Doug Lamarisse, as always, we appreciate it. The Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, talking about the Browns who selected Jedrick Wills from Alabama with the 10th pick. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will return with more sports and Les Levine, the NFL Draft Special here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit Naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
Here, let me show you how this works.
it takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Welcome back to more sports and Les Levine. The NFL Draft Special. The Denver Broncos have made their selection 15th overall in the first round, and they go wide receiver Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, one of my favorite wide receivers. Speed requires consistent respect from corners and safeties. Scored 24 touchdowns over his last 28 games. Experienced in pro-style route combinations. Early acceleration looks the same from snap to snap, and is one of the best route runners and can cut outstandingly. Only negatives they have: high cut and leggy, play style more linear than fluid, average short range quicknesses underneath. You're nitpicking. I think this guy's going to be a really good fit for the Denver Broncos. Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, another Crimson Tide guy, going in the first 15.
And your comparison to the NFL,
Antonio Holmes. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
Former Buckeye.
Yep.
Andrew Berry talked about, met with the media out in Berea, talked about Jedrick Wills, another guy from the Crimson Tide who was the Browns' first-round pick at 10th overall.
Going. So Jedrick Wills, we're incredibly excited to add Jedrick to our organization. Jed was one of the guys that we had targeted coming into this evening, and he was a guy for us where just his performance over the past 2 years at Alabama, the way that he attacked really our spring process, and just the overall makeup of the individual, we thought he was a guy that really fit in terms of talent, makeup, need, and is really just kind of perfect for us this evening. Jed, from our perspective, very well-rounded skill set, great feet, athletic ability, coordination, advanced in pass pro, and very physical in the run game. And so just a really well-rounded player for us. But, the other thing that really impressed us with Jed, particularly this spring, honestly, is just his preparation and organization around his preparation habits and routine. It's, very difficult on clubs, but also on, prospects with obviously all the restrictions with COVID-19. And one thing that really resonated with us, particularly when we, interviewed Jed after everything shut down, is just his approach and his process to training, whether that was physically with conditioning, strength training, or his on-field work, working at left tackle, and then obviously the preparation that he's put into the classroom. So we're really excited to add him. And I guess the last thing I'll mention before opening it up to questions is, I spoke with Mac Wilson last night. We get in the habit of speaking with former teammates on a number of prospects that we consider coming into the weekend. And when I was asking Mac about the Alabama guys and got to Jed, Mac, he paused and he goes, "Man, Jed's a baller." And it's a very simple phrase, but something certainly we agree with, and we're excited to add him to the organization. Think he has a ton of potential, a lot of work to do, but we're happy to add him to the team. I don't know that it's really fair to compare prospects, but what I can say for Jedrick, here's an individual who came in as a true freshman, was a contributor at perhaps the most competitive program in college football. As a true sophomore, a true junior, was really the blindside protector for the program, and consistently matched up against edge rushers in the most competitive conference in college football. And what he was able to do at such a young age over an extended period of time was certainly impressive to us, as well as just all the people that we spoke to, around the Alabama program, including Coach Saban. We just felt like he checked all the boxes for us coming into this weekend. I do think that there's going to be some physical reprogramming or, gaining a little bit of comfort. But, from our perspective with Jed, the reason that he was playing the right side of Alabama is because they had, a very successful left-handed quarterback. But in terms of the actual physical skill set, his feet, his athletic ability, his ability to pass protect, all of those are top notch from our perspective, and we think that he could really play either side of the line of scrimmage. We do think that Jed is a very clean fit for our offensive system, and largely because of his athletic ability and his movement ability. They ran a lot of wide zone at Alabama too, so it was a bit of an easier translation for us, because it's not like he was in an offensive system where you didn't see him do some things in the run game that we're going to require of our offensive linemen. But we think, really physically, he's certainly one of the prototypes for our system. So Scott, to answer your question, I'm never surprised by anything in the draft at this point. In full disclosure, I did expect more tackles to come off the board a little bit earlier. We did have some options to potentially move down the board. Obviously, we sat and decided to make the pick. We felt really good about Jed, and we're excited to have him. Tony, there are certainly a lot of good players available at pick 10. There are going to be a lot of good players that are available through the rest of the draft, but we felt very strongly about Jed. He was certainly one of the guys that we had targeted coming into Thursday night, and we were excited when he was available to us at 10. Really, probably Kevin's better to speak on that, but we actually have a pretty good virtual offseason plan. Yes, we're not allowed to be with these guys physically, but we're fortunate enough to have video technology where we can still provide the resources to make sure that these guys can get up to speed and get the support that they need to get up and running with the new offense and defensive system. So all the other 31 teams are dealing with the same challenges, but we feel very equipped to make sure that our guys can hit the ground running when they are allowed back in the building. I guess as you know, I don't generally like to make a habit of speaking or speculating on guys who aren't on our roster, but we're open to anything that helps improve the team, but any decision we make, we think that that's really the best in that moment. And for us to get, a young, very, very talented tackle that can grow with the young core of our roster, we're very excited to do. Again, Jed has a very well-rounded skill set. He plays a premium position, and we think he has the proper makeup to really flourish in our organization. It's something that we discussed when we met with him at the Combine, and it's not, I can't sit here and say that we were the only team who asked him about that, but when you guys speak with him, if you haven't already, I'm sure that he'll mention that was a pretty common discussion point with him throughout the process. Ultimately, that decision resides with Coach. It resides with Kevin, but we feel confident in our ability to work with him and make sure that he's up to speed. Again, we're fortunate to have the offensive line coach who's presided over probably the most high profile switch from right tackle to left tackle and Bill Callahan. And so we feel really good about the group and the support that we'll be able to give them. So from our perspective, there was a ton of organizational consensus around the pick, whether it's, Paul, Kevin, and myself, or I would say more broadly, Daryl, our scouts, our research and strategy group, and our coaching staff. There was a lot of belief in Jedrick as a person and Jedrick as a player. So we feel really good about bringing him into the organization as a whole. But again, there was a ton of alignment with the pick. It was really more we felt so strongly about Jedrick than any really strong demarcation, Scott. We really like him a lot. Again, he was one of the guys that we really targeted coming into the evening. So it was less about perhaps running out of options and seeing a player where the overall talent level match with some of our goals entering the weekend. So it was really more about that than anything.
We're talking about first-round pick Jedrick or Jed Wills from Alabama.
You know what I like about that? If you're a Browns fan, you know how these draft nights go. And here he is halfway through the draft, and he's taking questions. So obviously there's no trade involved with that particular pick. In the past with the Browns, you don't know, your pick is made. You don't see these guys maybe till the end of the night, and which means anything can happen. It appears that they were sure what they wanted, they went after what they wanted, and they got what they wanted. Now, whether it's the right call is a different story.
Right.
But as of now, they're very happy about it, and I think most fans would agree.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing he pretty much, that's as much as Andrew Berry has ever told us. They had a chance to trade down. They didn't. They clearly identified guys that they liked. He was one of them.
Right.
It's a plan.
That's
Go
what
figure.
When we had Doug Lesmerises on, you brought up the fact that he didn't use up his full allotment of time, the clock, and that turns out to be a good sign.
Right. I mean, again, you should feel a little bit better about the guy running the ship because there was a plan. It was executed. It was again. Proof is you got to go out and win games.
Sure.
This guy has to be a player without question. But nothing threw him.
There's nothing that we've seen in the last 2 hours that would make you think, hey, he's a young kid, 32 years old, and he's trying to show off that he's the smartest guy in the room. He might be, but he didn't. It wasn't one of those, hey, I'm the smartest guy in the room.
Well, and the other thing is, take it back to free agency. Identified what he was going to do, went out, was aggressive doing it. So all good things. Couple of picks to catch you up on as the Falcons selected A.J. Terrell from Clemson, cornerback, and again, a guy with pretty good speed, freakishly athletic thing. Played at a big-time program, played in a couple national championship games as a defensive back. And then the Cowboys go and take a wide receiver, and a pretty good one, C.D. Lamb from Oklahoma. You think they're trying to make their quarterback happy? They go out and get a guy that can get open and do some really good things with the football. C.D. Lamb from Oklahoma.
Where did Jerry Jones go to college?
How about them Cowboys? But let's head to the phones. We'll welcome in BP from Pepper Pike.
Hey, BP.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Good.
Good show so far. I think I'm pretty pleased with what the Browns did. Of course, I was hoping they could have gotten lucky and gotten Isaiah Simmons, who I really felt would have been a difference maker for the Browns. And, they haven't had an outstanding linebacker, probably since the Browns really came back in '99 as far as, a homegrown, drafted player. So, they let Joe Schobert go and they let Kirksey go. So they didn't get Isaiah Simmons. They missed him out by just 2 spots, which was a little disappointing. But, they took Jedrick Wills, who, anybody from Alabama, they're a blue-chip prospect. I have no problems with it. And if that's who they felt was, their guy, then I'm completely on board with it. What do you think?
Exactly what I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And BP, how do you feel? I'm the kind of guy that'll give new regimes the benefit of the doubt. I really like what I've seen from Andrew Berry so far. I mean, from free agency, kind of identifying what I thought they needed to do and going out and doing it. I don't know if you heard from him just before we played some clips. They had the ability to trade back, but they really liked the guy that was available. They took it. So it's been a well-thought-out plan that he's planning for contingencies. He seems like a general manager, which
we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
what's interesting is I've called Les's show, a couple of years ago when the Browns did all that trade down with Corey Coleman, and I was really mad. He had the same kind of a show, 2 or 3 years ago. And I was mad also when they did the trade down with number 12, and they picked up Jabril Peppers and David Njoku. I wanted them to take Deshaun Watson or even, O.J. Howard. And I can remember that phone call to Les, you guys back a couple of years ago. This time, the general manager, he's done the right things. I'm actually really pleased. I like what he did in free agency, and I like what he's done here. He took the best available player, and they didn't trade back. That trading back is not good for Cleveland.
No, but one thing further.
We missed out on Julio Jones.
Yeah.
That was a disaster back in 2011.
Yeah, but BP, one of the things that is involved in all the things you're talking about is that the overriding situation was not that they had to go after a quarterback. That doesn't mean we know that Baker Mayfield is or isn't the right guy for the next 8 years, but at least they're not looking for one right now, and that hasn't overshadowed what they're doing so far.
Well, I still think, and look at they brought in Jack Conklin for the right tackle. They brought in this new guy, Jedrick Wills, for the left tackle. They brought on Austin Hooper. Those are all, huge improvements from last year's Browns team. So now they're giving Baker Mayfield, every chance to, be successful. And if he can't be successful with his new coach, new regime, new players, then, then it'll be time to look for another quarterback. But hopefully we won't have to do that.
No, hopefully you don't. Well, you're not going to do it this year, and hopefully not for the next 8 years.
Right. Hopefully, and Baker Mayfield, if you look up his age, I think he's 24 years old.
Yeah, he is.
So he's not exactly a young prospect either.
This is the year.
This is a huge year for him.
This has to be his year. No question.
Exactly. But I appreciate, you guys have done a great job. And actually, in the second round, I would love to see them get a safety or a linebacker. There's guys that are starting to slide because, and I said that even on the fan earlier, there's always teams, look at the Raiders took this Henry Ruggs. He was not really supposed to be the first receiver off the board. So I'm hoping the Browns can get a safety or a linebacker in the second round.
I would agree. Those are two areas that I think they need to add some talent and not even depth, just talent that can play.
And I'm actually confident that Andrew Berry's going to do it. He seems like he's on the same wavelength as like me or you guys. He's in. I think we might. I think he's on the right path here. He didn't trade down, and he's. Even the guys he brought in free agency, they've all made sense. So all these moves are making sense.
BP, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
I think one encouraging thing we talked about it just before the call is that Andrew Berry is out there halfway through the first round, and he's not saying, "Well, I can't talk about this, can't talk about." He wasn't mandated to be there. He didn't have to be there yet, but I think that's a sign of strength and knowing where he's going, what he's doing.
Well, after Andrew Berry addressed the media, Browns' new head coach Kevin Stefanski out in Berea also talked to the media about Jedrick Wills and taking him with the 10th pick in the first round.
Everybody, good to see you. Obviously ecstatic adding Jedrick Wills to our group. There's a lot of things I like about this kid. He's played a bunch of games down there at Alabama. He'll turn 21 next month. I like his makeup. I like his tenacity, his toughness, his intelligence, and then not to mention he's a scheme fit for our team. Great movement skills, plays with a nastiness. I think we got a winner, and I think we got the right person, which I keep coming back to, and it is the truth. Just trying to get some good players in here, some good people, and he fits the bill. So I'll take any of your questions. I think that's a big part of his game is his athleticism. And, when you're evaluating really any position, the saying is the tape is your resume. So when you watch the tape of Jedrick play, it's very evident the type of player he is. Now, everything that happened postseason with the combine and the workouts, then it just was it stamped his movement skills as what you saw on tape was legit. So, again, I think once we got to know the person and spend some time with him, had our coaches spend some time with him, we really felt very comfortable that we were getting a guy that certainly fits our scheme and certainly fits our building. Yeah, I think I'm very confident in Jedrick for a bunch of reasons, but first and foremost, I'd point out Bill Callahan. I think he's top-notch in developing players. This is something that he's done before. And then you have to look at Jedrick's skill set, and then you have to look at the makeup of the kid. I mean, so to some players, it may be a tougher transition than others, but I'm very confident that Jedrick has that ability. He's already been working on it. Again, he was down there protecting the blind side of Tua, as everybody knows, but it's something that he'll work at and he'll continue to get better. But I feel confident that we have Coach Callahan there to lead that development.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just think, again, it's that all-encompassing picture of skill set and person. And I go back to the tape. It was the first time you turned on the tape, I could envision this kid playing in our scheme, playing for our team. And certainly I see the versatility of being able to play both sides. And then it solidified for us, for me, the postseason, the testing, and then more than the testing would be the personality and getting to know him. So I don't want to compare him to those guys because that's just really not fair at this point. But I would tell you we are very, very excited to add him. I think that's a great point about playing at Alabama because you know two things. Number one, he's been coached and he's been coached hard. And then you also know he has gone against some pretty darn good competition down there. And that's important part of an evaluation is watching a player good versus good. And you didn't have to search very long to find good versus good when you're evaluating Jedrick. That we feel real confident of getting an Alabama guy. In the second part, it was seamless, just kind of how we expected it would be. I wish I could had some great story for you, but we kind of sat here, watched the board come off, and got a guy we really wanted. So phones didn't go down, internet didn't cut off. Felt really good about it, and we're excited to do it again tomorrow night. I think we'll leave all options on the table at this point, Mary Kay, but I do think we will have the opportunity to work virtually with Jedrick. It won't be ideal, like getting your hands on him, like you said, but I'm really confident in Coach's ability, just in a setting, explaining what he wants to see. And there's various ways, and we're figuring them out, and we're getting creative about how we're sending the guys video of different drills and different techniques that they can do. So I believe we'll be able to get that done. And I'm confident because I think Jedrick he's already on the way to doing those things. I mean, he's like I mentioned, he's been well coached. He's been in a left side stance before. So I think it's just going to be the muscle memory over and over. But like you said, when we do get him, whenever that is, there will still be work to be done. And we know we're getting a young player. So it's going to be a process. It's going to be a process of development. And I trust that we have the guys to get it done. I think all of our coaches had a big voice, and that's where I applaud Andrew and his crew and how collaborative they have been throughout this entire process. It would have been ideal to have us all in the same building and be together and tonight to be together, but we have found ways to make sure that throughout this process, everybody was included and involved. And certainly for a pick like this one, we made sure that Coach Callahan was right there throughout the process, and just he's seen it all. Coach Callahan has, and I think his expertise in this area was a big part of this. I think we're going to have to be creative with this piece of Jedrick's development, just like all of our players, quite honestly. Our coaches are thinking long and hard about different ways to develop the guys virtually, remotely. And there are ways to do it. And we're going to make sure we exhaust all the ones we can within the framework of the rules. In terms of what Jedrick's skill set, I mean, he's I think he's a complete player. There was some carryover to the run schemes that they ran, similar things that we'll run. You see, again, the ability in a downhill offense, the ability in a wide zone offense. I think he's kind of versatile to be able to do both. And then pass protection wise, I just think he's a technician, and I think he can only get better. But really like the use of his feet and his hands in his pass protection. I think it's a really good point. I know we added Jack, obviously, in free agency, adding Jedrick tonight. We'll figure it out, I guess, is the best way of putting it. Whether Jack's the right and Jedrick's the left, we'll figure that out. I like the idea that we've added two really smart, tough, versatile football players that will make us better. And I'm confident that the coaches will put them in position to succeed. Draft night's always fun. You've done your homework. You've gone through the mock drafts. You kind of have a sense of where guys are going, and then you get a surprise. We were sitting there kind of surprised there were no trades in front of us at any point. So it's the classic letting the board speak to you. And I think for us, we sat there. Most of us were muted for a lot of the time, trying to make sure there wasn't a ton of chatter. I explained it to AB. I said, this is like game day. You got the headset on, man. I said, I'm here to help you, but I'm not just going to be in your ear chattering to distract you. So he was outstanding, just like I knew he would be. The communication was really good. It was very calm on there, which I think helps the thinking. And then, there we are at 10, and we got a guy that we're really excited to add. Yeah, I would say yes, I am. I do think these offensive linemen take it very, very personally when their player gets past them and hits the quarterback. And I think when you're tasked with protecting the blind side of a quarterback, you're tasked with blocking a guy who, if you get beat, the QB may not see it. So I think it's a big deal. And I think it's something mentality-wise you will get from Jedrick. This guy's a tough dude. And I've already texted with Baker. I think Baker's already texted with Jedrick. So I think we'll have a guy that's over there that understands how important that position is. I think you could. No. Now, Joe Thomas as a resource, yes. One of the best to ever do it, yes. I'll make sure Joe and Jedrick talk if they haven't already. So I think we're uniquely positioned to have a guy like Joe who can be there and explain to any of our young players, but particularly an offensive lineman, the what to do, what not to do type of thing. So certainly we'll get those guys linked up, but I don't believe we could have them work out like that. And then film-wise, we have a library. It's of film, and I like to tell the coaches that's one of the best ways that our players learn is through film. And the nice thing for us is that we have a robust library. So we'll certainly have him watching tape schematically, but there's no particular player that I would ask him to emulate necessarily. I just want him to kind of get some film of some of the blocking schemes, some of the pass protection schemes. Certainly we'll have plenty of homework for him to do in that regard.
Kevin Stefanski, Browns head coach, talking about Jedrick Wills. And one of the things that jumped out, talking about scheme fit. Yeah. I mean, that's something we haven't heard a lot of the Browns talking about their draft picks fitting into what they want to do.
He said it in his first sentence.
Yeah, twice. He said it in the first two answers.
All right, I'm guilty. Ready? I told myself when the change was made in the front office and the coach, I said, I'm not going to pay attention until they get into training camp and they start playing games. I'm sold already by what I've seen tonight. Not just the pick, but the way they've handled it, the way they haven't tried, as we talked before, haven't tried to be the smartest guy in the room. And they even said, we'll see you tomorrow night. They're not, they're 2/3 through the draft here. Nobody's saying, wait a minute, we may have 6 trades to make here. Nobody's doing that. And that's a sign of some stability, which is hard to do the way the Browns have operated.
Again, in the past, it seemed like there isn't necessarily, this is point A, this is point B, a definitive plan.
Right.
There's been a plan that's been pretty, if you're paying attention, has been pretty easy to follow.
They probably had 3 or 4 plans.
Right.
And because there was 1 or 2 shifts in that first round in front of them. Nothing earth-shattering, no trades that just blew the whole thing up. But they were able to implement, if it was their first way to go, fine. If it's number 2, that's fine too. It looked like they pulled it off smoothly, and that's a great sign.
I agree. Let's take a look at the last couple of picks that have come off the board. The Miami Dolphins, with their second pick, get an offensive tackle to protect Tua. Their new quarterback, Austin Jackson from Southern Cal. Interestingly enough, in the preseason this summer, he donated bone marrow for his sister to have a surgery. So he had holes drilled in his pelvis shortly before the season began. So again, there's a little bit of that. That's real life stuff. And there was a story on him that USC allowed him to do that in the summer. He wasn't at 100% beginning of the year, because that happened in August, I believe. Right. So had a really good season and is going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, and the Browns were looking for a tackle, obviously.
You heard that name come up.
You heard the name, but it was maybe 7, 8, 9, something like that. But it's a pretty high pick for him.
Yeah, and you know what? He goes 18 to the Dolphins. And again, really nice story. Wanted to help out his sister having bone marrow surgery for bone marrow cancer.
A lot of great stories this year.
Absolutely. And then also coming off the board, another Buckeye defensive back. 2 of them go in the first round as Damon Arnett goes to the Las Vegas Raiders at 19. Not quite the speed of Okudah, but, again, you get a defensive back from Ohio State, you're getting a guy that's played.
Three Buckeyes in the first round, plus, of course, Burrow, which was
a recruited Buckeye.
Yeah.
A recruited Buckeye. But, again, 2 defensive backs for Ohio State go in the first round.
You surprised he went that high?
Arnett? A little bit.
I am
a little bit. But, again, Gruden and Mayock, they don't pay attention to that. We like him, we're going to go get him, and that's what the Raiders do.
They don't care what the ranking is.
Exactly. They don't pay attention to that. He's going to be a Raider. We're good with that. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We will have more Sports and Les Levine, the NFL Draft Special, right here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
You love it, always wanted it, and there's never been a better time to get Nature Stone than during our Spring Weather Breaker sale. We're breaking spring sales records with up to half off beautiful Nature Stone garage floors, patios, porches, and more. Correct cracked, uneven concrete that thin paints and poly coatings can't. Every Weather Breaker savings comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, and there are no hidden maintenance costs. Schedule online today at naturestone.com to qualify for up to half off. Hurry, offer ends April 30th. It's not just a floor, wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmaurice, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others.
For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Welcome back to more sports and Les Levine, the NFL draft special. We've heard from Andrew Berry. We've heard from Kevin Stefanski. Time to check back into Berea, where we'll hear from Paul DePodesta about the Browns taking Jedrick Wills, 10th overall in the first round.
I think I've already heard from AB and Kevin, but we're obviously very excited about what we're able to do, tonight in the first round. When I talked to all of you last week, we talked about being a team that's really focused on best player available. And I think we ended up in a really fortunate spot tonight where best player available on our board happened to be a position of real need, on our team. So that doesn't happen every year, but we were fortunate that was the case. And, we're thrilled to get Jedrick on our team. We went through a lot of different scenarios over the course of the past week and really tried to prepare for the worst. So we didn't necessarily anticipate that we were going to have any of them to choose from. We had a lot of different scenarios in mind where, that they might not be there, but we also thought there was a real chance that at least one or two of them could be there. I think we were pleasantly surprised that three were there, but we had run through so many scenarios. We definitely thought that this was at least a reasonable likelihood that we'd have a shot at one of the guys we really like. We didn't necessarily know that we'd have a shot at the top one on our board. So that was a pleasant surprise. Really well. I think I said this last week. My biggest regret to date is that we're not all in the building together today. Today, tomorrow, and Saturday, in order to enjoy this together, because it really has been a collaborative effort. To this point, and even with this pick, it was highly collaborative. And we were on the phone with everybody, even at 6:30, tonight Eastern time, with the entire football operation, coaches, scouts, front office people, everybody. So hopefully everyone is at home as excited as we are, collectively. So it really has been seamless. Again, we would have liked to have all been there to celebrate together, but I think we've made the most of it. I think probably the most prominent one and probably the most important one for us is Tyron Smith. From the Cowboys, and it happened to be that the coach that oversaw that was Bill Callahan. He was a dominant right tackle in college. He's been a dominant left tackle in the NFL, and fortunately for us, we have his coach. So a sample of one there is not a great sample, but we know it's possible. I think Bill's excited to have him. In the case of Jedrick too, it's a little different. He was protecting Tua's blind side in college, with a left-handed quarterback. And that's primarily why he was playing right. And obviously they had Jonah Williams up until this year too, playing on the other side. But we're confident that athletically he can do it. And Bill obviously feels comfortable that he can do it. And, we just think it's not that it'll be seamless, because I think with every player, as we talked about last week, they all have their growing pains when they get to this level. And, I'm sure he'll experience some of those, and also because he has to make the transition to the other side, but we're very confident he'll be able to do it. I mean, if things fell the right way, as I said before, we have been really focused on best player available. Now, as it turns out, we thought there were a handful of very good tackles on the board this year, and that it was a real need for us. So I think it meshed together nicely, but it wasn't something that we thought we have to do this. In terms of remaining flexible, we we were in contact with teams in front of us. We were in contact with teams behind us. We were prepared for a lot of different eventualities. And, earlier today, B and I were talking and we said, well, we know when we go to bed tonight, we're going to be a lot better off than we were when we woke up. We just don't know exactly how, and we knew there were going to be some really good players available to us at 10. We just didn't know who they were going to be. As it turns out, we, got one we're incredibly excited about. So I'll take the second one first. He was actually the top tackle on our board from the beginning. So we were, again, really excited. It's a really, really good group of tackles. So that's certainly not to slight those other guys, because I think they would have all been worthy of being taken, with our pick. But we were, certainly excited about Jedrick. In terms of the other one, because he still plays for another team, I don't really want to comment too much about the player. I will say this: throughout the spring, we've tried to understand all of the available options to us, especially at a position of such importance, left tackle. So I think we've kept abreast of the different possibilities. We knew there were some real possibilities in this draft, but I think that's really where our focus was ultimately. We did think that we had a decent shot at one of these guys, falling to us at 10. And I think we were going to wait to see, what happened there before we really pursued, any other avenue. It's a good question. I'm not sure. It was funny. After the 12th pick, we have a group chat in addition to our WebEx meeting going on right now. And I wrote in the group chat, when was the last time that we went through the first 12 picks without a transaction? And it was about 2 minutes later that they announced the swap for 13 and 14. So I think I got my comment in under the wire. But yeah, I don't know what contributed to it. I think the distance probably has something to do with it. But then again, even in past drafts, when we're making deals, you're making them on the phone. And that's no different today, than it is if we were all in the draft room. The conversations that you have after you make the call or after you have the call, those are a little different. We have to run those a little differently, but I don't think ultimately that really influenced the lack of transactions. I think there were a lot of really interesting players, available to teams. And, we talked to some teams in front of us in preparation for the draft, and kind of everyone said the same thing, which is if, one or two players are available to us, we're going to sit and pick. And I think we kind of felt the same way. If there are certain players available to us, we're going to sit and pick. Otherwise, we're interested in moving around. But the way the draft fell, early, it just seemed like the teams that were picking had guys on their board that, they just wanted to sit and pick. No. And I think there were probably some opportunities too, if we had really pushed it. But no, I think, there were a couple players where, we thought we were going to sit and pick for sure. But it's a good question. I think all of them were attractive for sort of their own reasons. We thought that this was a highly unusual tackle class. I mean, this is probably as good an offensive tackle class, certainly since 2016, where you had some awfully good ones, come out early in the first round. You had guys like Ronnie Stanley and Laramie Tunsil, and now our own, Jack Conklin. Very, very accomplished guys. This class, at least as we sit here today, sort of matches up, with that. So it's, I think when you start separating one from the other, you get a little picky because they're all really, really good. And in any normal draft, any one of them could have been, the top tackle, available. For us with Jedrick, though, I think it was the combination of everything. It's obviously playing at a place like Alabama, the coaching he's already gotten, his athleticism, and his smarts. This is a very, very bright guy. I think he's really advanced from a football knowledge standpoint, but we think mentally he's advanced, and he's just a mature person. He's a pro, I think already. That doesn't mean he's not going to have a lot of things to learn, and he's not going to have to grow in different ways. But we just really liked his approach to the game, and we've talked a lot about finding players that are smart, tough, and accountable, and we felt like he really checked all three of those boxes. I don't know if I'd go sort of quite that far, but there were certainly guys that we liked. We also thought there were some other non-tackles that we liked, that we would have been excited to take at 10 if in fact there had been a run on tackles early in front of us, and then we would have then gone in another direction in terms of finding an answer there. But we liked them, certainly quite a bit. But I think there were some at least differences in terms of the way we felt about each individual guy, and that probably would have changed. It probably would have changed our strategy a little bit depending on who was there. But again, that ultimately was something we weren't faced with since the top guy was there. I think it's hard to say, and I probably won't share exactly how our board lined up, but we're certainly happy with the way it ended up. Well, I don't want to put too much on Bill because I think that would be unfair. But we certainly weighed his opinion pretty heavily, in this group, and he absolutely felt confident that this was something that was possible and that Jedrick could do. Now again, that doesn't mean it's going to be flawless, but I think he has a strong belief that Jedrick's capable of doing this, and that definitely weighed heavily. I mean, if he had come to us and said, "Listen, this is highly unlikely that he could make such a transition," then I don't think he would have been the top guy on our board. So we had scouting meetings. I'm trying to think of our schedule back in February before going to the combine, and we set, at least at that point, we had sort of separated the top guys and maybe had a preliminary ranking. But it was far from being set in stone. In fact, it was probably in light pencil, at that point. And then we had additional meetings in early April. And then we also had meetings with our coaching staff in early to mid-April. And I think it wasn't really until after all those processes were complete that we had our order. So I would have said it's probably, thinking about the calendar, maybe 2 weeks ago, when it was set the way it ended up turning out. I wasn't on the call, so I don't know exactly what was discussed, but I know that they did address it, and I think everybody felt comfortable about his ability to do it.
Paul DePodesta, talking about Jedrick Wills, and really one of the things that stood out about that, kind of what I might have suspected and alluded to, Wills was in fact the top tackle on their board, which that's not an uncommon thing. It was pretty well divided.
You probably had other teams that had somebody else. First of all, that was Paul DePodesta, who we heard tonight more than maybe we've heard in the 2.5 years that he's been here, right? That's number one. Number two is the fact that it's so obvious when you listen to them. It's so obvious that Freddie Kitchens was not their choice last year or this year to continue. These people, they call it alignment, and there's alignment there.
Yeah, without question. And you know what? It's a good thing because you need that to be successful as a franchise.
Correct.
Yeah, without question. A little bit of housekeeping. The 20th pick in the draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars, Kayvon Kaysen, edge rusher from LSU, another one of those Tigers who won the national championship, wears the 18 jersey given to a high-character leader at LSU. Great lower body thickness for a longer frame. Quick laterally up the field off the snap. Tremendous agility and flexibility. This guy probably would have gone higher. Missed all of 2018 with a torn ACL. Missed a couple games in 2019 with an ankle injury. When he's healthy, he can get after the pass rusher. A couple of wide receivers go off the board. 21 to the Eagles. Carson Wentz gets a target. It's Jalen Reagor from TCU. Pretty fast guy. Has the ability to run with the ball after the catch. You see the comparison, an Ohio State Buckeye, Curtis Samuel, now playing with the Panthers. Then the Vikings at 22 take another LSU Tiger wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. And this guy could end up being a sneaky pro. 4.43 speed. Greg Jennings, the comparison, you see over 110 receptions, 18 touchdowns, 1,500 yards. And then the Patriots, the next pick, Patriots traded to the Chargers. So there's a trade on board.
Reagor, who you talked about just before, his father was an NFL player.
Yep.
So runs in the family.
Yep, and there are a couple of those with the lineage that'll be picked later in it as well. But you're starting to see a run on wide receivers a little bit later. Most people thought it would go in the teens. It's going more in the 20s with the wide receivers. And then, hey, big surprise. Bill Belichick traded down in the first round. They need some picks. He traded with the Chargers. So the Chargers came up to make their pick.
Okay. Well, DePodesta pointed it out. The first 12 picks were no trades involved. Then the one, just as you had said at the same time, you said, well, there was that one trade for one spot. Yeah. So I don't know if that counts or not. But again, it could be because of the technology, of being afraid of it, but I doubt it. I think that, like the Browns, who, by the way, I got a couple of emails during the break. A couple of people commented how quickly the Browns made their choice, which illustrates what they're talking about, that he was the guy they wanted from the beginning.
Right. And again, you're not able to do that unless you have what you talked about with alignment. Everybody's on the same page.
You're holding up for the phone to ring again.
Exactly. They knew what they wanted. They saw it. They did it. All good stuff. Well, we're going to welcome in Tim Bielik. Tim Bielik is from cleveland.com, and Tim is a guy who specializes in the SPARK scores for players. It measures the speed, strength, agility. It's basically, I love this, the SAT for athletes. It's a way you put a numerical value on somebody's athletic ability. Let's welcome in Tim Bielik. Tim, tell us a little bit about the offensive tackles and their SPARK scores. How'd Jedrick Wills do on the SAT for athletes?
Wills did very good. He was number 6 in the 72.0 percentile, which is just about that above average area. Tristan Wirth, number 1, and that's no surprise considering what he did at the combine, that 4.8 plus 40 time, the incredible leaping ability, a 99.1 percentile. Absolutely incredible athlete. Second on that list was a guy that people were linking to the Browns that they were going to trade down, Ezra Cleveland, 91.7. Third, Austin Jackson, who went to the Dolphins at 18, 83.3. So a pretty good amount of athletic offensive tackles in this group, and 3 of the top 6 already gone.
When you look at some of the guys that scored higher in other positions, who did that? And particularly, let's look at linebackers and safeties, because those are 2 areas that we think the Browns may be looking at day 2.
Absolutely. And I mean, Isaiah Simmons was the guy that I think everybody was talking about was going to be an outstanding athlete. Percentile around 98. Now, again, I say around because the numbers we get are incomplete because Simmons didn't do all the drills at the combine. But then you look at safety, like you talked about, another need for the Browns. There are 2 guys to watch, I think, at day 2 that stand out. Jeremy Chin of Southern Illinois and Kyle Duggar of Lenore Ride, both smaller schools, both around the 99th percentile, which is absolutely incredible athleticism. And if you're going to be a small school athlete, and if you want to make it into the NFL, you have to be a really, really good athlete, and those 2 guys clearly are.
Tim, is there any differentiation in the scores that you come up with based on what size school or where they play?
No, it's all about athletic figure. It's all about, the size, the height, and all those different things. It's just all about different testing, and it's more positional, I think, than school or anything.
You would think those numbers, particularly for linebackers and safeties, have some relevance, just because you want guys that are able to get from point A to point B, have explosiveness and strength when they do it. Do you have some other? Those were safeties that we talked about. Do you have some linebackers that we should listen out for too in day 2 as well?
I don't know if he's going to make it to day 2, but Patrick Queen of LSU looks like the top linebacker right now, number 5 on the board of SPARK, on the SPARK list at 83.8. If you're looking for more day 2 guys, Willie Gay of Mississippi State, 2nd with 98.1. Willie Harrison, the Ohio State linebacker, 6th at 77.2. And where he shined is in that 3-cone drill. He put up one of the better times in there. And remember, this is a former basketball player, so that agility really showed out. And it did well for Harrison, who I think should go off the board tomorrow night.
How long has this SPARK score been in existence?
Well, I've started kind of digging into this around 5 years ago. It was kind of the 2016 draft when Ricardo Lewis and Seth DeValve were taken. A lot of people I don't think really kind of were thinking about that too much. It was something that I kind of did research on and discovered that apparently it was something the Seattle Seahawks had done for a while to try and kind of find some steals in the later rounds. And obviously that's how they built one of the better defenses of modern football, by hitting on some late round picks that they were able to do. And this certainly is a measurement that probably helped out to find some of these guys, because as we all know, late round picks are extremely hard. It's pretty much a crapshoot at this point. It's just part of another measure that I think teams are trying to use to kind of take some of the guesswork out of it and hopefully find yourself a gem down there, because I'm sure you got to believe a better athlete's got a pretty good chance to stick versus a less talented athlete that has similar skills.
And that's where you help fill out your special teams. It's got to come that the more information you have on them, the better off you're going to be.
Well, the other thing is I think you alluded to it initially. The smaller school guys that you can't really project, well, what would this guy do against Alabama? But what you can say is he's really athletic, and if you put him on the field, he's not going to be overmatched by people based on athletic ability. I think that's kind of the way teams view the SPARK score, and I think you're absolutely right. With Chin and Duggar, those are two guys to keep an eye on, because their SPARK score will put them at least on the board and in the thought process.
Definitely. I mean, athleticism translates more than anything. Yeah, the competitive level definitely is a change. I think that's where, jumping up from the FCS or Division II, like these guys are going to have to do, they're going to notice it in the practice field right away from day one, because all these guys are getting drafted like Jedrick Wills. It's hard enough to jump up from the SEC to get to the NFL. If you're talking FCS, that's several more levels. In Division II, that's another level that you have to jump up. So having that athleticism makes that transition a little easier, I think.
What about wide receivers? That's another area that is pretty deep in this draft. And when you look at it, who are some guys to pay attention to that the Browns might be looking at day two wide receiver-wise?
Well, one of my absolute favorite guys in this entire draft is Notre Dame's Chase Claypool, the 6'4", 238-pound, tall receiver out of Canada. He's number 3 on the SPARK list, approximate 98th percentile. He doesn't exactly play the same game as DK Metcalf, but athletically he tracks out in a very similar manner. He had a very good 40 time, jumps very well. His production has gotten better and better as his career has gone on. I think he's a guy that, when I wrote about sleepers to watch, when I talked about receivers earlier in this process, I know the Browns and Kevin Stefanski like going with 2 tight ends, but Claypool's an interesting guy to me because with his speed, I kind of think if you want to use him kind of a pseudo tight end or even add 15 pounds to him and convert him into a tight end, you can certainly do that because he just has incredible athletic ability. And he may be raw, but he's a guy that can be a jump ball specialist, at least I think early on.
Well, the other thing is you've got Beckham, you've got Landry. It'd be nice to have a big target in the red zone, which Claypool would be somebody. Tell us more about some of the guys you liked as sleepers. You did write the article on sleepers. Who are some guys to keep an eye on that you think might be sleepers coming up next 2 days, really, for the Browns?
Well, when I look at safety, obviously talked about the 2 small school guys, Chin and Duggar. When I look at linebacker, Malik Harrison sticks out. They want to go for that in day 3. I look at the composite big board right now. There's not a lot of guys that are like way lower down on this board that have come off the list. So you're looking at a lot of good safeties that should be there on day 2, a lot of receivers. And this is a draft where I think receiver could be a position that going into the 4th or 5th round, you're going to see the guys that normally in other drafts would go 2 rounds earlier. And another guy I like at receiver, Van Jefferson out of Florida. Maybe not the most athletic guy, but what he is, he's a precise route runner. And that's another thing the Browns could definitely use as a guy who's precise, knows how to get open, and just a guy that Baker Mayfield can find open and get him the football quickly because he's able to just get open.
Tim Bielek, as always, we appreciate the insight to some names to keep an eye on based on their athletic ability, the SPARK scores. Tim Bielek, reporter for cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of break, we've talked about Jedrick Wills. Time to hear from Jedrick Wills. Also, Browns beat reporter Dan Lobby will join us. More sports and Les Levine, the draft special. We'll be right back here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
Here, let me show you how this works.
it takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Brown's Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Welcome back to more sports and Les Levine, the NFL Draft Special, along with Les Levine. I'm Dave Bacon. First pick in the first round, the 10th pick overall, the Browns selected Jedrick Wills. Wills talked with the media and is excited to be a Brown, obviously.
Here, very excited to be a Cleveland Brown. The dream come true, getting picked in the NFL draft, and I'm nothing but excited to get to work. I'm very excited, and I know those guys want the same exact thing I do. It's going to do nothing but make us stronger if we all have the same goal in mind, which is to win. And I'm going to do everything I can to put us in that position. So he plays with great determination, and I do the same exact thing. And I know that he's a great quarterback, and he's somebody that's striving to, put a team in a great position to be like a championship team. And with us coming together, I feel like it's going to do nothing but make us better. So I think I'll fit in perfectly fine with the Y zone scheme. At Alabama, we were in multiple different types. So I did just about everything, and Y zone was in our packages. So I feel like I'm doing nothing but adapt easy and just learn the plays and get to work. As far as switching to the left side, I think it's something that's going to be in the best interest for the team. I predict it's coming very soon. So it's going to be something on me to get to work and kind of learn that position. So to start out, I'm right-handed, not ambidextrous. I'm strictly right-handed. But during this process, I've been working out at home with the trainer from high school here located in town. So I've been able to, get in the gym every day and do what I can do. But as far as like the whole coronavirus thing, it really didn't change my routine too much. So all I did was, work out, do football, and go home. So just been trying to stay out of the way. First declared for the draft, it was something that was questionable for almost every team. Only the Chargers and the Buccaneers were two teams that told me I'll play strictly right tackle. I know the Browns just got signed somebody who also plays right tackle, but I thought that I would end up moving to left. Number one thing is learning the plays and getting the playbook down, because without that, I won't be able to actually play. So that process, and then really just practicing left tackle. Joe Thomas reached out to me and kind of knew that I'd be going to that position right away. So as soon as I could start that position as fast as possible and kind of send him some videos and give some pointers and clips from his direction, I feel like I'll be in good hands. I'm very excited. I mean, football is filled with challenges, so whenever I can get to it, I'm ready. Yeah, just hit me up on Twitter DM, and just told me that he had a talk with Andrew Berry. Just told me that he really liked my game, et cetera, et cetera. And then after just now, he just gave me his number. It was like, call me sometime if you ever need any pointers. He knew I was going to be playing left tackle, so if I needed any pointers on tips and videos or things like that, he'd just be there to help me out. It means a lot. So that was something that I preached on because I firmly believe that I was. And with them believing in me and, kind of expressing their feelings about that, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel welcomed, and I'm going to prove them right. So it really just taught me how to be a professional. Came day in and day out to work, and I knew that if I wasn't going to do that, I wasn't going to play. So really just had to carry myself in a different manner. Before, no, I've never really talked to him, but he hit me up as soon as I got drafted, just shot me out a text and just gave me his info. Same thing, let him know that I was going to be there and he was going to be there for me. If I need anything, just to reach out. Just the pre-celebration, just get together, eat and whatnot, and then, of course, get drafted to celebrate. So now I just kind of enjoy the moment. I'm very influential, brought me up my whole entire life and been there for me through whatever I needed. So it just kind of created me, taught me right from wrong, and so on and so forth. I sports my whole entire life, started at a young age. That and he also used to coach me for a couple of years. I got a little older and moved on to like middle school and high school ball. So at the combine, it was more just them getting to know me for a couple minutes and then straight into film and playbook work, just trying to see how my mind processes and what I know, that type of stuff. And then like the Zoom interview meeting was just me and Andrew Berry. He was just kind of connecting with me, getting to know me. Very little talk about position playing actual football, but more on the other side. Right, so most definitely. I know it's going to be a tough transition, but I have full faith in him, kind of getting me to that point. So it's close to home. I think I've only been there a couple of times when I was younger for like tournaments and whatnot. So I'm not too familiar with the culture, but I just want them to know they're getting somebody who's going to do everything they can do to be a leader in the community, and I need them to teach me the culture there in Cleveland.
Jedrick Wills, first-round pick of the Browns at number 10. Very businesslike.
Very businesslike. I was impressed that Joe Thomas reached out already. He obviously, if he didn't know Joe Thomas before, he knows him now, and that's a good sign. You know, sometimes a new coaching staff may not want to be upstaged by a player like Joe Thomas, but they seem to be totally welcoming.
Yeah, they seemed like they wanted that.
Yeah.
And if he's moving to left tackle, there's a pretty good guy to get pointers from, would be Joe Thomas. Let's welcome in Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, Dan Lobby. Dan, I know you listened to the Jedrick Wills conference call, Zoom conference, whatever we call it this time. Your impressions, and what did you think of the draft of Wills?
You know, the Paul DePodesta admitted that this was their top tackle on the board. So this thing fell exactly how they wanted it to fall. It could have gone a bunch of different ways. And as it turns out, sitting there at number 10 is the guy that you had at the top of your board. And even though he might say, and Andrew Berry might say, they were going to be flexible and they came into the night not wanting a tackle, I think it would have been a disappointment had they left tonight without a tackle, without their starting left tackle for the 2020 season. They really needed to address this need. You didn't want to have to pick one of the guys that was down your board or you know, try and find somebody tomorrow or even on Saturday. They needed to get their guy, and they got their guy. And so this is a big win here for Andrew Berry in his first draft.
How impressed were you with the way they handled it? I'm talking about Berry and DePodesta, and of course that whole draft room. They and the coach, obviously. They came out early. They didn't leave room for making a trade once they were there. Once they were there, they were saying, good night, we'll see you tomorrow. It was pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, actions speak louder than words. So they say he was their top tackle on the board, and then all of a sudden that card gets turned in almost right away. So, you know, it seems that all kind of jives together. And just this whole offseason has been so organized, and, you know, you've identified the needs, you've gone and you've filled them. You've given yourself some wiggle room now on the last 2 days of this draft to, you know, if you want to go safety tomorrow, wide receiver, whatever it is you want to do over these next 2 days, you can do because you've addressed the biggest need that you still had left.
Yeah, what do you see that? Do you see safety? Do you see linebacker? Do you see wide receiver? I mean, you could make a case for any of those being areas that really need to be addressed. Is there anybody that you think might have you might have your eye on if you're the Browns?
I think one of those safeties, if they're still sitting there at number 41, is going to be really tempting for this football team. But I mean, I wouldn't rule out wide receiver, but I think that's an area where maybe you can get a guy like a Tyler Johnson in the 3rd round, or maybe even in the 4th round. You have those 2 third-round picks. I just think there's going to be guys there, whether it's Antoine Winfield, whether it's Delpit from LSU. There's going to be guys there at that safety position that it's going to be really tempting to not turn in that card. And the funny thing is, if you kind of sat down and mapped out this offseason and said, well, they should sign this guy and that guy and their significant additions, they've all been guys that we've sort of said, hey, you know what, the Browns should go after that guy. So I wonder if that's still going to hold true at number 41 on Friday.
Dan, as they went through the first 5 or 6 picks, was there a pick there that said, oh, that looks like the possible tackle that we need will be available? Or did you just play it out as it went?
I think the Andrew Thomas pick was a little concerning. When the Giants went tackle, we kind of thought the Giants might go tackle at 4, and then they take Andrew Thomas, and you wonder if that's a guy that the Browns liked. But then I think once you got to Arizona and Carolina and Jacksonville, those were really kind of the 3 teams to watch. And when those teams didn't take tackles and it became more and more obvious the Browns were going to be able to choose their guy, I think it was a big sigh of relief, because those were really, after the Giants, those were kind of the teams to keep an eye on, and none of them went with a tackle.
You alluded to this. How impressed have you been just with this front office? I mean, you can see the plan. I mean, Andrew Berry wasn't talking about the plan. We've kind of laughed that he doesn't tell us anything. He's kind of like one of the guys called him a nice Bill Belichick. He doesn't say anything. I think he said more today after the draft. But how impressed have you been with the plan and the execution of it?
You've got to be impressed. It's just all made sense. And I think the most impressive piece has been it all fits. So you can see what Kevin Stefanski wants to do. You can kind of close your eyes and envision Kevin Stefanski's offense right now. He's got a fullback. He's got his tight ends. Now he's got the two tackle positions set. Right guard is really the only big question mark on this offense, and maybe a third receiver or a fourth receiver. You can close your eyes and sort of envision this. So I think alignment has been the word, the buzzword all offseason. We've heard it before. It was perfectly fair to go into all of this completely cynical that they were going to find that alignment. But based on what we've seen so far, and again, there's no games. That's when you get judged, is on Sundays in the fall. But before there's any games, when all we have is to run on this, it seems like they are aligned at this point.
You left out fullback. He's got his fullback also.
Fullback, yes, exactly. I mean, you just check everything off that Kevin Stefanski wants in an offense.
Now I can close my eyes and I see Joe Woods pulling his hair out because he needs some linebackers and some safeties to play in the middle of that field on defense.
Yeah, and again, that's why I think we are going to see a defense-heavy draft. Like I said, you might see a wide receiver mixed in there with one of those third-round picks or a fourth-rounder, but I think we're going to see a defense-heavy approach over these next couple days because, again, you start looking at the offense and where you might plug guys in. There aren't many spots left, but on defense, like you said, you could use some young safeties. You could definitely use some linebackers. So I think the focus now shifts to the defense to kind of try and put some guys in behind those one-year contracts.
All right, hold on a minute. What's the bowling pin for?
Because I had it in my basement and I needed something over there.
That is the best type of thing to put because it needed to hide a bare spot. Dan Lobby, Browns beat reporter, as always.
Thanks,
we
Dan.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
And again, it's interesting. We're not as close to it as somebody who's dealing every day with it as a beat reporter. So it's good to hear that they have seen the organization, the plan, the execution, kind of like we have from a distance.
Yeah, but as you say, the closer they get, the more real it is, too.
Right. And Dan made a very valid point. All this doesn't matter until they get on the field and start winning football games. I mean, we said the same things last year, and it was 6-10, but it has a little bit of a different vibe to it this time, just based on the whole interaction between the front office and the coach.
Just watching them. In the NFL, it's made to be a parity league and all that stuff, and then every once in a while a good team emerges or a bad team emerges the other way. You look at this team, and you don't see how it can fail that way. At least the way it's put together, it looks like they know what they're doing. Unlike other teams in the past that they may not have looked like they knew what they were doing, but there was a chance they were going to win 7, 8, 9 games. This one looks like they're really going to win 7, 8, 9 games just based on this the way it's set up.
Well, the challenge is they may have to win 45-42.
Maybe.
But it's a win's a win at this point.
Yeah.
We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll be right back with more sports and Les Levine. The NFL Draft Special here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making NatureStone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's NatureStone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
Here, let me show you how this works.
it takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Brown's Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Welcome back to more sports and Les Levine, the NFL Draft Special. Les Levine, Dave Bacon. We wrap up round one, day one of the NFL Draft. A little housekeeping first. Let's take a look at some of the picks that happened while we were listening to Jedrick Wills and talking to Dan Lobby. Kenneth Murray goes number 23 overall. The Pats traded with the Chargers. Chargers take Murray, linebacker, and an athletic guy to boot. First team all Big 12. 24, center, Cesar Ruiz from Michigan. Two-time all Big 10 guy. And you see 28 reps on the bench press at 225. So the big center goes. Now the Vikings made a trade with the 49ers And Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, goes to the 49ers, becomes Jimmy Garoppolo's new best friend. Ayuk was banged up a little bit at the combine, but still did pretty well. A 4.5, the 40 vertical, the 128 broad. Robert Woods, a comp. You see 8 touchdowns, has some decent top-end speed. Ayuk goes there. And then another trade occurs as the Packers trade with the Dolphins, and they trade up to get the 4th quarterback in the first round. And the potential heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. Guys love his athleticism, 6'4", 224. You see it, 4'7", 440, not bad for a big guy. Blake Bortles, that comp scares me a little bit, but be that as
I wouldn't brag about that.
That's not a comp you really go around and say, they're comparing me to Jordan Love.
Whoever he is, to Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles. Just a final thought on what you saw and just the whole field.
I think I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. And using the old line here that if you told me 5 hours ago that this is what they'd have, I'd be very happy with it. And I am. I'm not sure how they could have done better.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? Let's take a look at an updated depth chart and the strengths. And we're going to begin with the skill positions, and that's the look of a pretty darn good team. There are a lot of weapons on that in that backfield. You have the fullback who's really good.
But you're also assuming the wide receivers will be okay from the surgeries.
Yeah, and it's a little thin after Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham both coming off surgeries. But again, you do have the ability to add to that. The line looks a whole lot better with Jedrick Wills plugged in there. Chris Hubbard is also a guy, they restructured his contract. He could swing in to the right guard position. Wyatt Teller, Drew Forbes there. So Hubbard is a guy that has played inside and out. You like him inside better because he has help. It's not somebody that can get around him. He has help inside and outside of his guard.
Tell me if you feel this way, that here we are in April, and it looks like right now they don't have that many spots to fill. It looks like they're in pretty good shape other than linebacker if they had to go into the season right now.
It's okay. Now you say that. Let's take a look at the defense.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
okay.
Defense.
But offense, I feel really good about.
Yeah, no, I agree. The offense has the ability, if Wills is as good as you think and Conklin plays like he can, it has the ability to be a really good offense. Here's the defense. Garrett, Ogunjobi, Sheldon Richardson, Vernon, those are pretty good. You have to like Billings. Billings is a guy that stops the run. People are going crazy about run stopper. That's why they signed Andrew Billings. Claiborne is a good guy to rotate in so you can keep your ends fresh. Here comes the scary part. You look at the linebacking core, and Mack Wilson looked good at times. B.J. Goodson is a guy who's played in the NFL. Taki, don't know what you got. Harvey Young, don't know what you got with any. There are some that have called that one of the thinnest, and I'm being polite, linebacking cores in the NFL.
Well, they're saying they're the worst.
Right. Thin, worst, Do you want to have thinning hair? No. And then the defensive backfield. And I know, again, Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, they have to stay healthy. They have to tackle better. Denzel Ward has to stay on the field. And the safeties.
And Greedy has to
he has to get
time.
A little bit better. I like Carl Joseph. I like that signing. Yeah. He's a young guy. But again, I would expect them to again supplement the safety and linebacking pretty quickly in rounds 2 and 3.
I was just impressed with the way the Browns the front office handled whatever they had. It's obvious that Paul DePodesta is quite involved in the operation, as he should be.
Yeah.
He stayed out of the limelight the last couple of years, but he's right there. It looks like he's got that alignment we've been talking about.
Well, and the thing was, they had a plan. They were quick. They were decisive. Yeah. And that's kind of the way I guess that's what's been impressive. They've been quick. They've been decisive. They've done it in free agency, and they did it in the draft.
Exactly.
They knew what they wanted to do. They weren't afraid to do it. They went and did it. Now, does it add up to wins? We'll find out.
Hopefully it adds up to a season.
Yeah. Well, there is that minor thing. But want to remind you, we will be here tomorrow night to recap day 2 of the NFL draft as well. The start a little bit earlier. The start at 7 o'clock. not quite as much time between picks, but there's rounds 2 and 3. So we will be here to recap day 2 in the NFL draft as well. I want to thank all of the cleveland.com reporters, Mary Kay Cabot, Doug Lesmarie, Dan Lobby, Ellis Williams, Tim Bielek, and Stephen Means and Scott Pasco as well. We appreciate all their insight, and we will again see you tomorrow night as we recap day 2.
We'll be here.
Absolutely. For Les Levine, I'm Dave Bacon. We appreciate you joining us here on More Sports and Les Levine in the NFL Draft Special. Join us tomorrow for a day 2 recap. Have a great night, everyone.